Running out of time to do it. Not going to help John Sherman's quest for a new stadium if all of Kansas City says, well, shoot. I mean, if we're never going to win at home, I mean, what's the point?
Yeah.
What's the point in a nice new stadium if we're just going to lose every game here?
Yeah, playing a sandlot in front of nobody and go 0-8. Yeah, rough month at home continuing for the Royals. That was about as grim an effort as we've seen from this team since the last homestand, if we're really being honest about it. The last time I saw the Royals play that in uninspired, they had a players-only meeting that same night. No word of another one after last night's 5-1 defeat at the hands of the Rays, but a season-long trend of offensive ineptitude continued last night as the Royals dropped the opener in their 6-game, potentially season-defining homestand. We'll talk about it. The wretched back end of the Royals batting lineup. We'll talk about the sloppiness from the Royals fundamentally last night. 2 really gross errors that cost the Royals a pair of runs, and they aren't good enough and really aren't good enough offensively right now to hand the other team free runs. And they handed them 2 freebies last night, and that was costly in a 5-1 defeat. So we'll take a look at last night's game. We'll look ahead to tonight. Michael Wacha, who was the last Royal to start a home victory, will try and become the next one as he goes tonight against Drew Rasmussen of Tampa Bay. Again, 6:40 first pitch, 6 o'clock pregame here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. We're going to talk a lot of college football today. Excited about that. Couple of guests today. You know, it's Wednesday, so we do our Wildcat Wrap-up. Once again, it'll be Ryan Gilbert of GoPowerCat.com. Tim Fitzgerald, a late scratch today, so Ryan Gilbert from GoPowerCat.com will pinch hit for Fitz on the Wildcat Wrap-up at 4:30 or so. We'll get Ryan Gilbert's thoughts on the latest K-State developments in football and basketball as the summer continues. Also joining us today, bottom of this hour, friend of the program, Shehan Jeyarajah from CBS Sports.
Yeah.
We're going to get Shehan's thoughts on the Big 12, 2 months out of the kickoff of the 2025 season. And I'm going to ask him a lot about the extremely well-reported feature that was just published today at CBSSports.com. Go read this if you have not already. Shehan went down to Lubbock and lived
to tell the tale.
Yes, made it out alive with barbecue on his fingers. We're going to ask him about that story. But that anecdote at the end of the story, it's worth reading all the way through to the end. But it's really well done feature by Shehan there at CBSSports.com. And it asks the big question, maybe the question of the 2025 Big 12 season. Can you buy a conference championship? Because Texas Tech would like to try. And great detail why they feel like they're in position to be the financial titan in the Big 12, the things that are happening in the surrounding area in Lubbock that has really made Texas Tech feel like they can stick their chest out a little bit. And it was very fascinating to read. It is very much worth the read. We'll get Shehan's thoughts on that and the rest of the Big 12. He will join us at the bottom of this 3 o'clock hour.
He's the star of the football internet today. We got him at the perfect time. That story dropped this morning. I read it. It's fantastic. And
yes,
everybody you know who's on social media who covers college football has said, wow, this is great. Shehan rules. Read this today.
Yeah.
So we good work by us. Totally intentional. we really lined that up with his editors to make sure that he'd come on today.
Sure did. Yeah. So we're excited to have Shehan Jeyarajah on to talk with us. Again, if you haven't read the story, keep an eye on our X account, 580 Sports Talk, our Blue Sky account, 580 Sports Talk. We'll blast out a link to that story so you can read what it is that Shehan wrote, because you should. It's very well done. Those are our guests today. We'll also talk a little KU and K-State later on in the show. What's the biggest concern we have at this stage for both KU and K-State for this coming season? I think we all believe as a collective here at 580 Sports Talk that to varying degrees, we're bullish on KU and K-State. We believe K-State has the potential to win the conference, and certainly KU has the opportunity to make some noise. But what could hold them back? What's the biggest concern for both KU and K-State? We'll discuss that later in the show. Plus, everything you've come to know and love from a Wednesday edition of the program. We'll do our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Lots of headlines to get to. Recruiting news for KU basketball. Scheduling news for college hoops. Realignment news in college sports. And, oh, yeah, the NBA draft is tonight. So lots to get to in headlines. We'll play round of One Gotta Go also in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll continue our countdown to Chiefs kickoff. We're 72 days away. If you know off the top of your head who number 72 is on the camp roster, give yourself a pat on the back.
Eric Fisher.
No.
Once upon a time it was.
It was, yes. And so much more. What is wrong with you, of course, coming up in this Wednesday edition of the show. We want to hear from you as we go along today. The text line is open, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429 to text the show. If you are watching the show today on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. First things first, if you have not done so already, head on over there and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Even if you maybe can't watch it today, but you'd like to watch it maybe in future days, go subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you got a YouTube account, go subscribe. Doesn't cost you a thing, but 15 seconds of your time to search for 580 Sports Talk and mash that subscribe button. And if you're watching the show on YouTube today, there is a live chat feature that you can access via the web browser or your mobile device, and you can interact with us and your fellow listeners as we go along today. The 580 Sports Talk YouTube community. A good afternoon to Christopher, Mark H., Ryan, and Vance is also in as well. We got some of the regulars. We look forward to seeing more of you as we go along today here on 580 Sports Talk.
I had a great bit queued up previewing our 4 o'clock conversation about biggest concerns for KU and K-State. And I was all ready to say, my biggest concern is it's going to break the bank to buy a flight down to Miami for KU in the national championship game. No, it's actually reasonably affordable. It's under $200 one way to Miami right now.
Out of KC?
Out of KC.
But you got to fly like Allegiant, right?
No, American.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
wow.
I'm flying Sunday. Okay, so I want a day to get used to
sure.
Miami.
No, that's the advantage of booking this far ahead. Right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go pay John Ruiz a visit in prison or wherever he is these days, and like, oh yeah, this is where Nigel Pack played, and then get ready for the game. So yeah,
plenty to do in Miami. Go get a Cuban sandwich.
Get a Cuban. I don't know.
I always
do cocaine. Like I don't know what else you do there. I've never been.
I would not do that. Certainly an option, but I would avoid that. I always think food. Like I default. Like if I'm going somewhere, my first thing is thinking about, all right, what am I going to eat when I'm there? Even if it's a place I've never really been, just like, okay, regionally, what am I going to eat there? We went to Myrtle Beach a couple of weeks ago. And my first thought was, all right, I'm going to eat my weight in fried seafood. Then I got a little bit sick for about 24 hours and put a damper on a couple of days of seafood eating. That's the last thing you want to eat when you got a rumbly in your tumbly. But also, they got down south is they got Cookout and they got Bojangles.
Yeah.
And I hit them both.
Isn't Bo's so good, man?
Got the Bo bites.
God,
the Bo sauce.
Good. I love Bo's.
I regret not getting the Bo-berry biscuit. They do breakfast all day. I could have just had one.
I love Bojangles.
It was a Bo's to go.
Oh.
Which I didn't know. My father-in-law and I went before we caught the
you didn't know it either.
Before we caught the Pelicans game.
Mm-hmm.
We pulled up like, well, not going into order. So there's nowhere to go in this Bo's because it's a Bo's to go. But that was really good. By
the way, the only other thing I know about Miami, other than its football team once went undefeated in a 14-game schedule, NFL I'm talking about here, 1972, that's where Burn Notice took place. Remember Burn Notice?
I do, vaguely. I didn't watch it, but that's, what's his name?
Jeffrey Donovan.
Yeah, turned up on Law & Order.
Yeah.
Didn't like his character
big
on
break
Law &
was Burn Notice.
Yeah.
Good show.
I can picture the guy. I think he's a good actor. I hated his character on Law & Order. I was glad he only stuck around for a season.
That's fair.
When they rebooted Law & Order, which I still don't believe they ever should have done. Anyway, different conversation for a different day. Are we kicking the can down the road
Dude,
talking about the Royals?
Suck.
That was gross.
Not as people. I'm sure they're wonderful guys, but God, this team is miserable.
That is 8 straight losses at home. Royals fall 5-1 to the Rays last night. And they got bullied. Like, that was one team coming in. The Rays, we mentioned, coming into the series is maybe the hottest team in the American League. And they came in with confidence, and they came in with energy, and they came in with some verve, and they came to swing the bats, hit the ball, run the bases. And the Royals did not. The Royals looked flat again, which when that happens twice in 3 games at home, you have yourself a problem. And I don't necessarily, I can't put my finger on that. That's got to be a look in the mirror moment for the 26 guys on that roster right now. Why have we lost 8 straight home games? Why have we not won a home game in the month? Why, and Christopher with this unbelievable stat, why are we on pace to hit the fewest home runs at home in a single season as a team in club history? They're pacing behind the 1976 Royals, who hit just 28 home runs all season at the K. That is truly remarkable. Great poll, Christopher, in the YouTube comments.
That's gross.
Yeah, man, that's sick. And not in a good way. And look, some of this is you got to take off your cap when you get beat by a great pitching performance. And Taj Bradley was awesome last night. You want to know what good pitching looks like? Go watch Taj Bradley's performance last night. The trick, such as it is, and trick's probably not the right word for it here, but maybe the key, the secret to success, the secret sauce, you want to pitch well against a team that, like the Royals, doesn't strike out a ton, makes contact. Get them to make contact on the pitches you want them to make contact on. If you go and you watch a highlight reel of Bradley's start, he is getting outs on pitches that are out of the zone, pitches that are on the fringes of the strike zone, pitches that are really hard to square up. Not a lot of mistakes from Taj Bradley last night. Not leaving a lot of balls out over the fat part of the plate. Now, when Chris Bubich left balls over the fat part of the plate, he got punished. And again, part of that is the Rays are hot. That lineup, top to bottom, all swinging hot bats, and they beat him on his mistakes. Bubich tried to elevate a 91-mile-an-hour fastball on Danny Jansen, left it too far out over the fat part of the plate. Jansen popped it for a 2-run homer in the second inning that kind of set the tone for the game. But you watch Bubich's outing, and you watch the pitches on which the Rays did damage, and then you watch the pitches that were put in play by the Royals, which, it should be noted, none of them went to the outfield until the 6th inning of the game. They did not hit a ball out of the infield. That was like watching a varsity pitcher to go down and pitch against the C team for a day, or those first 5+ innings for Taj Bradley last night. But it was magnificent pitching. And to a certain extent, you have got to give him credit for being exceptional, for having a sharp curve, for having the big fastball, and for taking the Royals out of being able to do damage on pitches that are hitters' pitches. They swung and made contact on a lot of pitchers' pitches last night. And I think some of that is it is a lineup that is pressing, and the deeper they get into games without having scored any runs, and the fact that they fell behind early, I think contributed to this as well. You start to press, and your best hitters start to press, because we are very much after game 79 of this 2025 season, we are very much where we kind of feared we would be when this season began. That if it's not the big guns, it's nobody. And with the emergence of Michael Garcia, you've maybe got a different set of guys you consider the big guns right now, because the emergence of Garcia has coincided with Salvador Perez having the worst year of his career. And Jonathan India has not really stepped forward and been the offensive force that the Royals had anticipated. So really, it's 3 guys. And maybe by the end of the year, we're talking about more guys. Maybe Salvi can continue what's been a decent June. Maybe India gets going. He did have the first hit of the game last night. It was a bad break that it didn't score a run. Really, it was a bad break. The Royals didn't get right back into that game in the 6th inning when India hit the automatic double, and the ball that took a funny ride on the fence around the right field corner hopped into the stands. That prevented a run from scoring. And then Bobby Witt Jr. hit a seed, but he hit it right at the left fielder. And when, if he'd hit it less hard, it'd been a 2-run single, and all of a sudden he got a ball game. So a little bit of bad luck there at the end, but the first 5 2/3 innings wasn't anything lucky about it. That was the Royals being overwhelmed by Taj Bradley. Credit to Bradley, but again, we're back where we feared we would be. That if it's not the studs, it's nobody, and that the back of the lineup has too many automatic outs. Jack Caglione, too often, has been an out from the 6 hole, and 7-8-9 last night is just not conducive to doing any real offensive damage. It's just not. All due respect to Kyle Isbell, and you can have one guy in your order who's a defense-first player who hits an empty 260 which, by the way, it feels like Isbell hasn't gotten a hit in 2 weeks. His average down to 245. Remember when he was hitting like 280? Average down to 245.
Yeah, and when
it's an empty 280 you can live with, an empty 245, nope. Can't live with that.
If you are not especially analytically minded, maybe you don't love some of the, the in-depth stat stuff that I know you and I are certainly pulled to, Dan, and that we acknowledge and reference a lot on the show. You might not have paid a lot of attention when we said, hey, it's working right now for Kyle Isbell, and you ride that wave while you can, but there is underlying data, and there are some advanced statistics out there that indicate this is not going to last, and there is luck involved. And some of these hits, because they're not getting hit hard, and they're not getting, the placement is not perfect. He's getting some luck because of the fielding from the other team. This is going to come crashing down at some point. This is the crash out.
He's 2 for his last 29 and 1 for his last 17. Funny enough, both of those hits in his last 29 at-bats have been doubles, which is kind of funny. But, it's been a rough going for Kyle Isbell. Drew Waters has settled into basically just being a singles hitter. And, again, if it's an empty 280, that's great. When it's 258 and the on-base percentage dips below 300, it's not an everyday player. And John Rave, he earned this opportunity. Not doing a lot with it. That's the way it goes sometimes for 27-year-olds who get their first taste of the bigs from AAA at the age of 27. Usually there's a reason they don't get a look earlier. And that was 7-8-9 for the Royals. That's a whole third of their batting order last night.
Which is just one black hole is one thing. A couple black holes scattered is a worse thing. Every time you go through the order knowing that 3 straight guys are going to give you nothing is debilitating, frankly, for trying to build an offense. I just, to further my point, I'm sorry to beat this dead horse. I just pulled up the profile for Kyle Isbell again. Nobody in baseball hits the sweet spot of the bat less than Kyle Isbell. Nobody has a worse expected weighted on base. We talked about this stat a couple weeks ago on the show. You were out, Dan. We had Random Question Tuesday. We asked for listener submissions, and I said, hey, we'll do an Ask Me Anything on Friday. So on Tuesday, let's keep it sports related. And Vance and Paul, I believe, asked, what's the best and what are the worst or dumbest stats in baseball? And I said, my favorite is weighted on base. It's like on base percentage, but it weights singles, doubles, triples, home runs differently. Nobody's expected weighted on base in baseball is worse than Kyle Isbell.
Yeah.
His expected batting average is 229. It's been that number for most of the season. He's now batting 233. This is who Kyle Isbell is, unfortunately. And not the guy we saw for the first, not even the whole first 2 months.
Yeah,
but
he had a nice little
month-long
3-week stretch where he was hitting okay, and he averaged up to 280. And look, again, you can live with that if he's defense first and he's not going to be a great offensive player. You can live with that in the 9-hole. If 7 and 8 give you something, and
they're not.
And 6 right now, 6 isn't giving you a whole lot. Like again, Caglione hit into some rough luck early, but the book out maybe a little bit on Caglione. He's not hitting the ball with the kind of authority that he did in his first couple of games, and the results have suffered there. So you're right back where you started, where like there's certainly potential for Jack, and it could click for him at any time, but right now, you're not getting anything from 6, 7, 8, 9. You're not getting a whole lot from your leadoff spot. So it's just your big guys. It's just your big guns. And if you get an offer from Bobby, what do you do?
And if it's there's nothing.
Yeah, and if it's not them, there's nobody. And the result of that is that the Royals in these last 8 home losses have scored a total of 12 runs. It is so hard to win a baseball game when you score a run. So hard. And the Royals have tried it a lot this year. They have scored 1 or fewer runs in 20 of their 79 games. That's more than a quarter of their games. They scored 1 run or fewer. You cannot win. You can't.
25.3% of the time, the Royals score 1 run or fewer. I mean, it's unbelievable. The more incredible thing, they've won several of those games because the pitching has been that good. Funny enough, Christopher mentioned in the YouTube comments that 1976 Royals team, which hit 65 home runs total.
Yeah.
And Amos Otis hit 18 of them. What a disgusting team offensively. But that team, their 5 main starters all had ERAs under 4 that year.
Yeah.
And one other starter who got 13 appearances had a 4.4. But okay, that's your 5th or 6th starter. Very, very similar to this year's Royals team.
They were also an above average offense according to OPS Plus that year because George Brett won a batting title and Hal McRae got on base a bunch. And They ran bases like the wind,
yep.
and they won 90 games.
Yep.
Like, that is a very different
It's doable.
sport. It was a different sport.
Okay, so to that point, I wanted to say real quick regarding CAGs. I like to tell you guys that I would always happily be wrong if it meant good things for the teams we talk about and cover. CAGs really struggling right now is the unfortunate opposite of that I was right, that there's a lot of pressure on him to fix the entire offense. Yep. And what if it doesn't work?
And right now, I think he's bearing a lot of that weight.
I think he is. Okay, to the point, though. That Royals team, 1976, they won 90 games. They stole bases. I don't have their fielding numbers in front of me, but they did little things that would still help you win. Getting on base with singles and George Brett hitting 14 triples.
Didn't win any Gold Gloves that year, but obviously Frank White was a wonderful defender. Freddie Patek was pretty good at short. Otis and Cowens were credible defenders. Otis more so in center field. Yeah, like they had some guys who could go get it.
This team is not good enough this year to stink at the marginal stuff. Base running, we have been over how many times that they are awful at it. The fielding last night was especially bad, but they've had so many instances this year. Like, where did this go? It's the one thing. It's like they've swung too far to the opposite side of the Moore era, and I can't believe I'm saying this. We're like, we're gonna win with defense and the little things. Well, that's not really how you win. But now they don't do any of that well. They've completely abandoned it, and it led. Bubic wasn't especially good last night, and it didn't matter because they only needed 2 to win. But 2 runs directly because of bad fielding, including by Bubic.
Yeah, I don't know what that was from Bubic trying to that little flip, and he just flipped it to the one spot where the worst possible thing would happen.
It's just so frustrating that you could at least give yourself more of a chance, knowing that you are so impotent offensively. You could give yourself more of a chance if you could run the bases, if you could field the ball, and they can't. It's maddening.
A quick thought on Bubic when we come back. That's 3 straight starts that have kind of been or worse from him. But I'm not worried, and I'll tell you why. Then Shehan Jeyarajah is going to join us, talk Big 12 football. That's coming up in this first hour of 580 Sports Talk. 3:32 on 580 Sports Talk. Shehan Jeyarajah of CBS Sports going to join us here in just a little bit. One last thought on last night's game. Kris Bubic, 6 innings, 4 runs, only 2 earned. 1 unearned on his own fielding error, another unearned when Maikel Garcia threw that double play ball into right field. No walks, 8 strikeouts, but the run total, bit of a concern because over the last 3 starts for Bubic, 15 2/3 innings, he's allowed 12 runs, 10 of them earned, on 23 hits. That's a lot more hittable than Bubic has been this season. Now, only 5 walks in those 15 2/3 and 17 strikeouts. The strikeout rate, percentage of strikeouts by hitters faced, is a tick down from his season rate. He's striking out close to 26% of batters he faces on the season. It's been at 23% over the last 3 starts. So the strikeout number is still good, down a tad, but not like worrisome. The big problem has been the hits. I think this is more a sharpness thing for Bubic. Like, he wasn't sharp against the Yankees, period. And I think last night he was a little less sharp than his best. Like I mentioned, he was getting beat with pitches in the zone, which has been rare for him this year. That he has not been that he has been able to elevate and work the corners and beat hitters, make, like Bradley did last night, make hitters swing at the pitch he wants them to swing at. But a little bit too often last night, the Jansen home run's the big example of this. You miss your spot and you pay the price.
Yeah, the crispness isn't quite there. Feels like some regression to the mean here. Like,
there is some of that. Like, that's probably the biggest thing we're dealing with here, because we didn't expect it to pitch to an ERA below 2 all year, did we?
No, and look, I think the real Kris Bubic is somewhere in between where he had been the prior 6 weeks and what he's been in his last 3 starts. That is still a really good. That's an all-star. That's an all-star. That's a no doubt number 2, if not number 1 pitcher. Like, that's a really good pitcher.
Yeah. I
just don't think he's one of the 5 best pitchers in the American League, which I think is fair, right? I think that's a fair assessment. So he'll bounce back. I'm confident in that. I'm very confident in the Royals pitching lab that he'll get it figured out. But again, this is one of those things, and it's unfortunate pressure to put on Bubic or anyone else, that Lugo tonight, Waka, whoever. If they are not perfect, you are not going to win baseball games.
That's just it. Like, that's the biggest thing right now for a Royals pitcher is you have to be just about flawless. You have to hand the bullpen a lead, and you have to do that. Lead probably looks like 2-1. Maybe it looks like 1-0, 2-0. But, you're just not getting a lot of support right now, and it is hard. And eventually, a pitching staff, even a good one, is going to have a little trouble with the weight of that.
The quality start metric, it's 3 runs or fewer in 6 innings or more pitched. Which, you should be able to win a game. That your starting pitcher kept you in it if he's able to post those numbers. But still, giving up 4 runs in 6 innings should not be a death sentence. But it is for this team. You could have written the obituary immediately for this team as soon as the Rays got their 4 runs, and only 2 of them were earned. But still, it's not like Bubic was, again, completely absolved of faults when it came to one of those unearned runs. It just is such an impossible situation for all of your pitchers, for your bullpen to know they've got to be better than perfect, and your starters to essentially be in the exact same position, because you just can't rely on, hey, we're going to get more runs. We'll get guys in. That's fine. You don't know that.
College football talk with Shehan Jeyarajah of CBS Sports coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk. 3:38 on 580 Sports Talk, and we are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Shehan Jeyarajah from CBS Sports, covers college football and Big 12, and today published a full-length feature, West Texas Boom, Inside Texas Tech's bold all-in bet on NIL and the billionaire landman responsible. It is a must-read today over at cbssports.com. Shehan Jeyarajah joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Shehan, I'll start with this. Is the question of whether or not Texas Tech can, in effect, buy a conference championship, to your mind, is that the most intriguing subplot of the 2025 Big 12 football season?
Well, I think that it's a very intriguing one. And, you know, when I really get into my feature, it's also so much about why they feel like they really should try and kind of have no choice but to attempt it. And, you know, it's so interesting, right? Because we're about to enter an age where there might be a salary cap, where there might be capped salaries. And so this was a once-in-a-lifetime type opportunity for this program and for a couple more like it. I mean, obviously, Miami's been in that boat. Oregon's been in that boat. But, you know, again, Texas Tech kind of recognizes, hey, we have been an also-ran in football for most of the past 10 to 15 years. Is it possible to swing for the fences and make something happen?
I talk a lot about want to on this show in regards to college athletic success and how successful your athletic department is. I say it comes down a lot to how badly do you want to be good? How much want to do you have? And that is really the crux of this piece, I think, Shehan, is, and as you laid out there, is showing just how much want to there is in Lubbock right now and how they've been able to back that want to financially. Is there anybody, let's say this works. Let's say Texas Tech in this number one transfer portal class in the country wins the Big 12 or makes the college football playoff, has what you would define as a successful season, one of the most successful in Texas Tech history. Who then in the Big 12 would look at that and say, hey, we've got the opportunity to step our weight up in the same way? Or is it really Texas Tech kind of operating on their own plane when it comes to their financials?
Well, I think it's a really interesting question because there's a couple aspects of that question that I want to address. First of all, there are multiple programs in the Big 12 and in college football, certainly, that have the kind of money available to them to try something like this, right? Like Texas Tech isn't the only school that has billionaires. They're not the only one who has major boosters. They're the ones who have had the most motivated billionaires and some of the most major boosters. And the other thing that I'll add to this as well is that I think that Texas Tech is really kind of owning this moment because of the level of donor fatigue that there is in some of these other programs. Like you can't just constantly go back to the well, whereas Texas Tech's, I think, are ready for this moment. But when I think of other programs that could maybe try to replicate this strategy in the conference, you have to think of it a couple of different ways. One, who does have maybe one or two especially motivated high money figures who's willing to kind of get out? And then also on top of that, which programs are kind of starved for opportunity? Like, I think that Baylor and TCU are obvious ones, but they've really been at the forefront and they've really kind of been ahead of the curve in trying to replicate this. You know, the most obvious one is BYU, which has spent just about as much money as anybody this offseason. A lot of it, by the way, on the men's basketball side. But just yesterday, Ryder Lyons, a 5-star quarterback, commits to the program and becomes the highest rated commit in the history of the program. So I think that they're a school that certainly might try to swing for the fences to an extent. I'll be curious too. You know, one that I think is so fascinating is the dynamic of the two Arizona schools. Obviously, Arizona has been a basketball school historically, Arizona State a little bit more of a football school, but they are two schools that are growing so fast, that have a lot of investment. The state of Arizona is growing at such a fast rate. I'll be fascinated to see, does one of them try to step up to the mat and maybe again, especially when you have a coach like Kenny Dillingham, maybe try to swing for the fences?
We're talking to Shehan Jeyarajah of CBS Sports, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk. They have done an impressive job at Texas Tech building a roster. Like we mentioned, number one transfer portal class in the country. They built in the trenches. They really focused on building up their offensive line and defensive line. But at the end of the day, so much comes back to the head coach and the quarterback. I like Joey McGuire, like as a personality. I think that he's got a lot of traits of a successful coach. Baron Morton is their starting quarterback. He has certainly shown some promise. He's also dealt with some injury issues in his first 2 years in Lubbock. Are they good enough at coach and QB to win this league?
I think that's a fantastic question. And actually, I think, this is one of the reasons I really wanted to write this piece too, is because, again, I don't think that people recognize the job that Joey McGuire has done. Obviously, he's made a lot of attention, made a lot of headlines for his Big 12 runs through Lubbock comments and things like that. But, when you kind of peel the curtain back, Texas Tech has 3 straight winning conference records for the first time since they joined the Big 12 in 1996. They have 3 straight bowl appearances for the first time in a little while, and he's the first coach to have multiple bowl victories since Mike Leach in 2007. So this is I think a coaching staff that gets underrated because they've been dealt with some tough hands. At the quarterback position, Baron Morton was a top 150 recruit coming out, but I think that what I would argue about him is that too much has been asked of him the past 2 years. They haven't been able to protect him. That's why they put so much into their offensive line. They haven't always had the weapons around him to be successful. Now, look, I don't think that Baron Morton is going to be one of the Big 12's best quarterbacks, but I do think that when you add more structure and give him more manageable situations, I think that he will have the potential to at least perform like an upper tier Big 12 quarterback. So at coach, I'm absolutely confident that they're good enough. And at quarterback, I feel pretty dang good.
We're joined by Shehan Jeyarajah of CBS Sports on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline here on 580 Sports Talk. Again, the feature that Shehan put together about Texas Tech is up now at CBS Sports, and it is an absolutely fantastic read. Wanted to look a little elsewhere in the Big 12 Conference, Shehan. We were playing a game a little bit earlier this week. We were trying to say something nice, anything nice about every team in the Big 12. We took KU and K-State out. We talked about them nicely enough already. Which team in the conference, however, is the hardest to find something nice to say about?
That's a really good question. So I'm going to give you 2 that are kind of in different situations. I think UCF is just, their roster is bizarre. Like their roster, it doesn't have hardly any players that you feel especially good about. They've got a coaching staff coming in filled with young guys trying to do the Scott Frost thing all over again. I at least kind of see the upside of it, but I don't think it's going to come true in year one. The one that I think is the most convoluted and discouraging situation maybe in the Big 12 is that at Arizona, where last year, they hire Brent Brennan to try to essentially be Jed Fish. He isn't able to do so. They have a really bad year. And now you've lost almost all of the guys that you were trying to keep with obviously Cesaroi and McMillan off to the NFL, with Takario Davis and Jacob Manu now at Washington. And so I don't really know what the goal is of this roster in a lot of ways. They added a transfer running back who I really like in Ishmael Mahdi, but outside of that, I don't even know what the identity of this program is trying to be right now. And, Arizona has been dealing with some tough financial situations, and certainly they won't be excited if they have to ultimately fire a coach after 2 years.
From Arizona to Arizona State, the other side of the Territorial Cup, which low-key, one of the nastier rivalries, at least on this side of the Mississippi River. I don't know that I'm buying all the way in on ASU being, the favorite to win the Big 12 again necessarily. And I love Kenny Dillingham. I like Sam Leavitt. Don't know if he's a truly elite guy. But one guy who I do believe is elite, and Dan feels the same way, Kanye Udo, is he the best transfer in the Big 12 this year, the former Army running back?
Well, I'm gonna put the Texas Tech guys to the side. They added a guy in David Bailey at edge rusher who I think has the potential to be a first-round pick.
Sure.
But outside of that group, I think that he has a really good chance. And the thing that I love about Kanye Udo coming over is, he was an 1,200-yard rusher at Army last year, is that I don't think too much is going to be asked of him because they do have a collection of guys. Kyson Brown also back at running back, Raleek Brown, a player that they were really excited about a couple of years ago. And so I think that he'll be able to really be that dynamic first and second down back without getting too much tread on his tires as well. So I'm really excited about it. Now, look, we have to say, right, he's not going to be able to replicate what Cam Scottaboo was for them last year. But I think that with the growth of this team on defense and the amount that they bring back in the passing game, he has the potential to be a tremendous X factor for this team.
Wanted to get into KU and K-State a little bit here. Let's start with the Wildcats, who, to me, I believe K-State should be the favorite to win the league this year. They've got the coach. They've got talent all over. It's just such a steady, solid program. To me, Shehan, the one big question is, will Avery Johnson take another step forward? Because right now he's a very good college quarterback. I think he's got the skill set to be a great college quarterback. What do you think is the likelihood he can take that leap?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I mean, he was so productive last year, and really, I mean, it's 2 or 3 bad games that really, I think, tanked his season in a lot of ways. But the other thing that I wanted to see from Kansas State, and did a little bit, was I wanted to see them get some more reliable weapons around him. Jace Brown was asked to do so much last year. And I think that they really did a good job of prioritizing big bodies in the transfer portal. And that's something that I hope will really make his job just a little bit easier. Kansas State is definitely in my top group. I think it's also going to be interesting to me to kind of see, like, after losing over these past 2 years so many key offensive line bodies, will they be able to kind of keep that going? They've done it so far. They've done it at a really high level, but if they're able to really develop, I mean, I think that Avery Johnson has all the talent in the world. I love Dylan Edwards at running back. Obviously on defense, we know what this program is. They're going to be there heading into the month of November.
KU, to me, is one of the most interesting teams in the conference. And look, we all know at this point with KU, the coaching is really good. There's enough talent to compete with anybody in the league. Is Jalen Daniels going to be healthy? If he plays a healthy 12 games, this team can be really good. If not, if he plays like, I think he was injured all for most of last season. That's why he struggled so much early on. Clearly, things can go south in a hurry. What to you is a fair win total goal for this team? I'm trying to temper my expectations a little. I think 7. I think this team should be good enough to win at least 7 games, get back to a bowl this year. What do you think is a fair, reasonable goal wins-wise for KU?
Yeah, I was going to say 7 exactly. I think that, you look over the past 3 years, right? I mean, this is a team that went to bowl games, won bowl games, and heading into last year, like, this was a program that had kind of gotten over the hump of where a bowl game was an expectation, which is not something that's been true at Kansas for a very long time, frankly. I think to get back to a winning record with a senior quarterback who, frankly, I'm very excited about. I think that Jalen Daniels, in the latter half of last year, showed the player that we know that he has the potential to be. And look, there's talent to be replaced at receiver. There's talent to be replaced at defensive back, on the offensive line. Of course, Devin Neal is a huge loss, even though they've added some guys I think who can at least in aggregate replace him. But like, I do think that with a veteran quarterback like Jalen Daniels, with the infrastructure that they've built, I want to see them have a winning record in 2025. And if they do that, I'll feel really good that they're back on track.
Couple more questions for Shehan Jeyarajah of CBS Sports, a college football writer joining us here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline on 580 Sports Talk. Shehan, how big is the contender class in the Big 12? How many teams do you think enter this season with a realistic chance to make it to Arlington, win the conference, and get that auto bid into the college football playoff?
Well, if you're asking for teams with a realistic chance to do it, I mean, the answer is going to be 9 or 10. Like, this is the Big 12, and I think it's hard to really eliminate too many teams. But for me, I think that I come to a list of 4 or 5 teams as that top-tier group. BYU is kind of the swing team right now with their situation with Jake Retzlaff at quarterback. If he doesn't play, I think it becomes a lot harder for them to stay in that group. But other than that, I've got Kansas State, I've got Baylor, I've got Arizona State. I think that there are, and of course, I've got Texas Tech with what they've added over the offseason. So I think that that's the top tier group that should be expected to be there at the end of the year. And again, if BYU is able to resolve that quarterback position one way or another, I think that the top group could be as many as 5 teams. And look, I mean, Kansas, TCU, like, there are multiple teams that have the ability to break into it as well. But that's my top group heading in.
Last thing, most important thing from your feature from Lubbock about Texas Tech football, Shehan. Evie Mays, the barbecue joint that you went to, your closing anecdote from the story, a top 10 barbecue joint in the state, according to Texas Monthly. Did it live up to the hype?
It absolutely did. It absolutely did. I wish that I had a few more minutes to sit down there and really get to savor. And everybody told me I completely missed out by not getting their peanut butter pie, which I regrettably did not do. But their ribs were incredible. I think that when you're in Texas, Like, good brisket's just expectation. You
Mhm.
just expect good brisket. I think that their ribs were the thing that really took them to the next level. It was incredible stuff, and I won't spoil too much how the story closes, but I'll try to make sure and be more prepared next time when I go to Evie Mays.
Yeah, you'll want to read that anecdote and the rest of Shehan Jeyarajah's outstanding feature on Texas Tech football over at CBSSports.com today. We've retweeted a link to that on our X account, our Blue Sky accounts as well, for those who are following along on social media. Shehan joining us to talk some Big 12 football. It was a real pleasure, Shehan. Let's do this again as we get closer to kickoff.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me.
That is Shehan Jeyarajah. We will take a timeout, come back, and wrap up this 3 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk next. Our thanks again to Shehan Jeyarajah for joining us. It really is an outstanding feature piece about what's going on at Texas Tech and how they've rallied to build the number one transfer portal class in the country and the long-term vision for not just really football at Texas Tech, but Texas Tech athletics. Like, we know a little bit about their softball program, the kind of money they're throwing around.
Oh, yeah.
I say it all the time. How good is your athletic department in Power 4 athletics? As good as you want it to be.
Real quick, random question Wednesday. Best barbecue joint you've ever been to?
Ooh, buddy. You know, I mean, it is Joe's. It is Joe's Kansas City. It is. Special honorable mentions to Q39 and Arthur Bryant's and Slaps and also Rendezvous in Memphis.
I am a loud vocal proponent of KC style barbecue. I think it is the best, and Joe's is my place. Shout out to Bryant's, though. It's so good. Black's Barbecue in Austin, Texas, though. Top 3 meal I've ever had in my entire life. Unbelievably good food. If you ever get a chance to go down to Austin, go to Black's. It is delicious.
I will have to keep that in mind for the next time I'm down there. We're talking Big 12 football next hour. Cats and Hawks, biggest concerns. Plus, what is wrong with you? And Ryan Gilbert for Wildcat Wrap-up. Coming up, 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2 on a Wednesday here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski with you today on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and of course, in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. However you're joining us today, thanks for being a part of 580 Sports Talk. We're so glad to have you along. We want to hear from you today. Hit us up on the text line, 785-272-9429. You can also jump in the chat on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, where everyone's talking barbecue and making me hungry. And it's very rude, frankly, to have done so 2 hours before I can possibly eat anything.
Yeah, I can eat barbecue every single day.
I could too.
Honest to God, my wife's going to be out of town for a few days, starting next month. I might just eat barbecue every single day while she's gone.
I respect that.
Yeah.
That is one thing. My mother was in town over the weekend for a few days, see her grandson. And she has a gluten allergy that she discovered, kind of developed later in life. So we got to do the gluten-free thing when she's in town. And one thing that is typically gluten-free is barbecue. So
that's true.
Yeah, we go to Hog Wild when she's in town. She likes the baked potato. I like the baked potato. So
baked potato doesn't have gluten?
You prepare it separately. No gluten there.
That I'm not gonna lie.
It's mostly like wheat. Like bread,
I guess that's
like
true.
that.
Yeah, it's wheat germ. Yeah,
how it's prepared. Yeah.
Some diabetics can develop a celiac or a gluten allergy. Terrifies me. I eat so much bread. Very, very scary to me. So your mom, tough as nails, because I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, it's it's hard on my dad too, because he can't like, he has to wait until my mom's out of town or not around for dinner to like go get like pizza the way he's accustomed to eating pizza.
Yeah, one of my best friends, his wife is I believe she has celiac disease, and my buddy, when they moved in together, he was a great about it. They threw out all their gluten stuff. He eats what she eats, and he's very good about that. But every once in a while, we'll talk about food in the group chat, and he goes, guys, I haven't had any of this stuff because I can't eat it. And I'm begging her to take a girl's trip so I can just veg out on some of this stuff.
No, I respect that. Yeah, thankfully, it's just an allergy. It's not like celiac disease. Like, it's not going to, like, it's just, if you eat the wrong...
It doesn't feel good. Yeah.
The wrong chips
right
at a Mexican restaurant, you could not feel very good. So
Joe's is your number one in KC, right? It's mine.
Yeah, sure. It's my number one. Just outrageously good. They catered that in. I know I've told you this. They catered. ESPN catered that for Game 3 of the Division Series last year at Kauffman Stadium.
They got something right.
So the press box just full of ribs and burn ends, and it smelled spectacular.
What's the go-to order
at Joe's?
At Joe's,
man. I get ribs at Joe's. I think Joe's has the best ribs, so I get ribs at Joe's.
The ribs are very good.
I get ribs, maybe a Z-Man if I'm really hungry, and fries. Have to get fries.
See, there's the thing. It is hard to say no to a Z-Man. You see that on the menu, and you say, yes, this is the best sandwich. When the Creator bestowed upon us the gift of making sandwiches, that's what he had in mind. However, I got to go with the Cowboy plate. I get so full. It's so much food.
Yeah, you got to roll me out of Joe's.
But, dude, hot links, ribs, brisket, sides. Oh my God, dude. It's so good. It's incredible.
Ryan asked in the YouTube comments, if you were on death row, what would your last meal be? Joe's Cowboy plate? Man, it'd be hard to
What
to
a question. Yeah, man. Like a big fat barbecue plate might be the answer.
Yeah.
It's either that, you're going to disagree with me on this other option, or like a big fat plate of lasagna.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I just had it the other night. We were in Des Moines. We went to an Italian restaurant with my wife's family.
If I'm on death row and you bring me a plate of lasagna, I say, man, just kill me. Kill me now. I'll roll up my sleeve and show you the vein at that point. Just inject me. Go for it. In fact, can we get a firing squad instead? So I don't have to eat this lasagna. So I don't have to eat pasta cake.
When I mentioned that Black's Barbecue in Austin might be one of the 3 best meals I've ever had, the other 2 might both be lasagna. I had one in Rome, and I had a really good one at a place that doesn't exist anymore in Chicago. I love it. I'm like freaking Garfield.
I gotta find the meal. There's a place in Memphis that I've been to multiple times.
Is this the place with the trash can?
Yes, the King's Palace.
Yes.
The King's Palace is on Beale Street, and they've got the King's Feast. And I am going to dig up their menu right now and tell you what the King's Feast is, because I think the King's Feast would probably have to be my choice, that I would do the King's Feast. But
and what all is included?
That's what I'm trying to remember.
Everything?
Yeah, basically everything. Like everything they got, they put on there. There's voodoo smashed potatoes, the gumbo, jambalaya, their barbecue. I think some shrimp. I think some crab cakes. Yeah, crab cakes are on the on there. Yes, here it is. Found it. Combination of ribs, pork shoulder, gumbo, crab cakes, potatoes, and slaw. And you can get it for 2, for 4, or for 6. And I would get it for 6, and that would be my last meal.
Man, the YouTube commentary is killing me because they've got so many good questions. We have football to get to. One, to the death row question, John says he would do the never-ending breadsticks at Olive Garden to just prolong it, which is genius. Great call. Also asked, is there a food menu item you guys have to have if you see it? Like you see it and it just, I got to get it. He says meatloaf, which is a surprising answer, but I do like a good meatloaf.
Okay.
Some ketchup. Yeah.
I don't know. Like, my wife gives me a hard time, and I give her a hard time back for this. But we're very different. Like, we go to a restaurant, and she knows exactly, if it's a place she's been to ever, she knows exactly what she wants. Like, give you an example. Went to Red Robin last night. Mm-hmm. My wife had her birthday this month, so she had the birthday burger.
Oh,
right? Yeah. So she was going to be a cheap date last night.
Nice.
And we needed to get Ash out of the house. He was getting a little stir crazy. And he did great, and he loved the balloon. So, yeah, perfect. Thumbs up for the experience last night at the Topeka Red Robin. Anyhow, my wife gets the bonsai burger every single time we go to Red Robin. Every single time, without fail, doesn't even need to look at a menu. I will choose between 3 or 4. It'll depend on what I'm feeling like at the time, but that's just our dynamic. She knows what she wants, and I will look at the menu. So I don't really have I show up and you have this, so I am going to have it. The closest thing would be if I go out for Mexican food and I hear you have good birria, I'm going to order that.
Birria's having a moment.
Birria is having a moment.
Yeah, it's good. It's delicious.
It's like adult Mexican grilled cheese.
Yeah, it depends on the place. I've got a place back home in LaGrange that they've got the Vermont burger, and I know I'm getting it. It's a burger with Vermont white cheddar cheese, bacon, and it's basted in maple syrup, and I get it every single time.
Now, there are some places I have a go-to, Tequila's North here in Topeka. I think they have outstanding mole enchiladas. So I go there and I order the mole enchiladas every single time. Yeah. And that's a popular spot because it's kind of in between where my in-laws live, out there in Meriden, where we live. So we go meet them for dinner. A lot of times we'll go somewhere in North Topeka, be Tequila's, and I'll get the mole enchiladas. Been a long time since I've had those. They're really good. But that's my go-to at that place. My Chipotle order hasn't changed for 20 years.
Yeah, same Chipotle, same forever.
Yeah, but
probably also almost 20 years. Yeah,
but broadly speaking, I'm more inclined to move about and kind of see. Oh, this is what sounds good to me today.
I've got 2. One of them shared by Vance and YouTube. One, prime rib. If you're serving prime, if it's prime rib night,
yep.
Blind Tiger, prime rib night. We only go between Friday and Sunday, so I can get prime rib. Vance also mentions chicken fried steak. Yes, I literally had it on Saturday morning this past weekend.
I need to make chicken fried steak,
dude. A good chicken fried steak. There are a few things better.
I need to make one. I've made them in the air fryer before. They actually turn out really good.
Nice.
And minimal mess because you do it in the air fryer.
Sure.
So yeah, I need to make chicken fried steak again real soon. My wife and I both like it.
Shout out to the Drake Diner in Des Moines, right off the Drake campus. Great chicken fried steak. Golden Nugget in Chicago as well, if you're ever up there.
Yeah, chicken fried steak. Prime rib too. I remember the best prime rib I've ever had in my life.
Where was it?
Oh my God, what is the name? The Myra, the Myrna, the Edna. There's the hotel in Cody, Wyoming, that was Buffalo Bill Cody's hotel, and they have a restaurant. So when I interviewed for my first job in radio, which was in northern Wyoming, I ended up working in a town called the Irma. Thank you. Yes, the Irma. So they have a restaurant at the Irma. I stayed at the Irma before I went to Cody to interview for this company they ended up working for out of their Worland station. Anyway, stay at the Irma. They had prime rib as their special that night. They were cutting it right off the big piece in front of you, and it was buttery tender. It was the best I've ever had in my whole life. I still think about it from time to time, including right now, and my mouth is watering.
Their menu describes Rocky Mountain oysters as a sack lunch.
Yep,
which is frankly very funny.
Andrew shouts out the chicken fried steak special at the Pad in the YouTube comments.
Buddy,
my wife loves it.
So good.
Loves it. Last time we went, it was a Wednesday. She was so excited. They had the special. She ordered it.
This segment is torturous.
Yeah, it's really,
I'm so hungry.
We were going to talk sports on the show today, but
anyway, coming up after the commercial break.
Shehan, I blame Shehan Jeyarajah, our guest last segment. He had that great anecdote about visiting the barbecue place near Lubbock when he was reporting that Texas Tech story. Thanks again to Shehan for joining us.
He's the best.
Yeah, great stuff from him. I think we set, he's very kind to us, but I think we set the good question record.
Oh, yeah, that was awesome. I've never felt better about an interview than that one. I got a laugh for a question. Yeah. We each got at least one or two good or great questions. That was elite. Great dude.
Kinder than we deserve to us. Yeah, shout out to Shehan. Look forward to running into him at Big 12 Media Days here in a couple of weeks. Anyhow, coming up this hour, Ryan Gilbert, GoPowerCat.com, will join us for Wildcat Wrap-up. Ryan Gilbert pinch hitting this week. Tim Fitzgerald late scratch. So we'll talk to Ryan Gilbert about the latest K-State happenings. And we'll do What Is Wrong With You as well. 2 new stories competing this week today to try and take over the weekly crown on What Is Wrong With You. But we were going to talk sports today. We were going to talk sports in this segment. KU and K-State, we're pretty bullish to different degrees on both teams regarding their expectations. We think they can meet the expectations. They're a little bit more modest for the Jayhawks this year. Bowl eligibility, 7 wins, 8 wins. We think that's certainly possible. Maybe even 9 wins if things break right. For the record, Phil Steele on his website broke down the schedules for each Big 12 team, believes Kansas has the easiest schedule in the Big 12. Them and Houston are the only team that play only 4 of what he considers to be 7 legitimate championship contenders in the conference.
Houston's schedule is remarkable. I cannot believe and they need it because the roster, but their schedule is unbelievable. I was just looking at KU's a little bit ago while we were talking to Shehan, and it's like on paper, I don't like. Do you think 7's a fair number?
Yeah, I do,
and not like. Best case scenario, I don't think KU is a playoff team. Like best case scenario, everything breaks right. The wide receivers click. Jalen's healthy. DK McDonald gets the defense to another level. Like I think this could be a 9-win team. I think that's possible, but I think 7 is a good, reachable, attainable goal. I see 7 wins on here.
Yeah, that's probably like I'd say 9's the ceiling, and 6 ought to be the floor. But I see them right about there. For K-State, I think the ceiling is a conference championship, and the floor for them is a pretty well-defined floor at this point under Chris Kleiman. That's 8-9 wins.
Yeah.
So that's where we see both KU and K-State, and we are again more bullish on both teams to get to closer to the ceiling than the floor this year. But what is your primary hang-up when you evaluate these two teams for 2025? Is it a position group, a coaching change? Is it something intangible? What's your biggest concern? We'll start with KU, and we'll give you the floor, Brendan. What is your biggest concern? The thing that might keep Kansas from achieving what you hope it will achieve in 2025?
So there's 2 that stand out the most. At one point, I thought replacing Devin Neal, because you don't really replace a dude like that. He's one of the 5 best players in the history of the program. Like, that's how good that guy was. But I trust this team's running game. I trust their offensive line build. And Daniel Highshaw and the incoming LaShawn Williams, I think the 2 of those guys are going to do more than enough to make this a steady running game. Highshaw especially staying, he knows Lubick and Zabrowski very well. So I'm not super worried there. Offensively, it's the wide receiver room. It is, aside from Doug Emillion, essentially, it is an entirely different wide receiver room. And I've said it on the show before. I have heard explosively good things about Emmanuel Henderson, the transfer from Alabama. Mm-hmm. And he and Jalen Daniels have worked out together individually. I heard that his spring went really, really well. I've heard really glowing things about him. Bryson Canty, the transfer, Levi Wentz, the transfer from Albany, some guys who are from smaller schools but have really good profiles. I think the ceiling for that group is really high, but it's hard to rebuild an entire room. And it's hard for Jalen Daniels. I think he's in a tough spot where he and Luke Grimm were together forever. He and Q Skin and LJ Arnold, like those dudes played together forever. They were on a completely different plane of existence in terms of their connection. Now you've got to learn what works. What does the ball placement have to look like for Bryson Canty? All right, Emmanuel Henderson can do everything. He's got speed. but what kind of ball does he need to be thrown to be put in the best position possible? Can he adjust to a ball in a tight spot, whatever? That's a tough thing to manage, and we know KU wants to build their offense off the run, but they will throw it, and they will throw it all over the yard. So offensively, it's there. I've got questions about DK McDonald has not done this before. Brian Borland has been Lance Leipold's guy for decades at this point. They again, got a ESP kind of thing between the two of them. You're changing it up now. DK McDonald has not been with this program for that long. He now runs the entire defense, a defense that, by the way, has to replace 2 all Big 12 cornerbacks. Not easy. And had some legitimate questions on defensive end this year with some turnover on the roster. So I think defensively in general, I like the ideas. I like DK McDonald. I like the pieces. The linebacker should be good, but there's a lot of change there. And it's just, the ceiling is very high. But the problem with that much turnover is I think you've also got a very low floor that KU has to avoid.
So my biggest concern for KU's in the secondary, because production-wise, they weren't that great last year. And they lose all 4 of their starters, 2 of whom were outstanding cornerbacks. Like, they had better personnel than the numbers would have suggested that they did last year. So you lose Kobe Bryant, you lose Mello Dotson, and you lose O.J. Burrows, and you lose Marvin Grant. Thank you. You lose all 4 of those guys. You're bringing guys in that are either new to the program, like Lyric Rawls, or they don't have a ton of playing experience within the program. And again, like the baseline, and maybe that's a good thing, that even with all that talent, they were only 99th in Phil Steele's pass defense rankings last year. So maybe that's a good thing. Maybe there's the possibility that you can just be what you were last year with this new group of players. But man, they had guys in that secondary last year you really had to account for, and I don't know that they have that in this year's secondary.
I don't think so.
That's my concern. A little less playmaking in the secondary. Now, the other question is, how does the fact that the secondary coach is being promoted to defensive coordinator, DK McDonald, that could have a positive effect on how the secondary plays, could also have a negative effect.
Yeah, I think there's certainly a question about, how much of, if it wasn't a great pass defense unit last year, was that because DK McDonald did a bad job? Or was it something about Brian Borland's scheme as the guy calling the shots that maybe handicapped what McDonald wanted to do? DK McDonald has a pretty good resume of guys he's put in the NFL. He worked in the NFL, and he also had some pretty dang good talent at Iowa State when he was coaching their DBs as well. So I'm intrigued. I'm optimistic, but that's a lot of things, a lot of pieces changing all over the roster that I think it's fair to worry about.
For K-State, my answer here is the offensive line. They've brought in a lot of transfers from Power 4 programs, and that's good. They brought in Terrence Enos. They brought in J.B. Nelson. They brought in George Fitzpatrick from Ohio State. They brought in the young man whose name I'm going to get wrong and butcher when he came in from USC, Amos Talalele, I believe it is.
Talalele, yeah.
Yes. And so, like, they got some guys from some big deal programs, and they've certainly added depth to the position. They've also got a new position coach. Brian LePack takes over for Connor Riley. I guess my question is, are they maybe changing on the fly the way that they block? Are they changing from being a more straight ahead power kind of blocking scheme in the run game to more of a zone blocking scheme, which I think would suit a running back like Dylan Edwards a lot better? In some ways, you could say it suits a running quarterback like Avery Johnson a lot better. Are they more athletic? And how's it going to shake out? Because you'd like to have a little bit more clarity. I consider it a small red flag that Chris Kleiman says we're going to play 8 or 9 guys on the offensive line. On the one hand, I understand the idea that depth is good, certainly. Fresh legs, the idea of that is very solid. But if you have 5 guys who are awesome, you're just going to play those 5 guys. You're going to roll with the best 5. And so if a coach is talking about, well, we're going to play 8 or 9, I would rather have a 5 I felt really, really good about. And maybe K-State gets there. Maybe Brian LePack gets them there. Maybe Matt Wells helps get them there. And this isn't a concern at all. But going into the year, I do have some questions. I like some of the pieces, certainly. Sam Heck was second-team all-conference last year. Taylor Portier's played a bunch of football. Yep. Andrew Leingang was a starter last year. Like, they've got some guys with experience. They got some high-profile transfers. But how does it fit together? And I think that's going to go a long way toward determining how much growth Avery Johnson makes, how good Dylan Edwards is as a full-time starter. Like that, the front has to be good for K-State.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces that are new or are taking on bigger roles on the offense. I think I would agree with you about the offensive line because that's where K-State has predicated its offensive success for decades at this point. And the thing about the offensive line is, and I was just talking about this with wide receivers in KU's case, there's no spot on the field where consistency and continuity and relationship between players is more important than on the offensive line. And having that continuity has been a constant for K-State for a lot of Chris Kleiman's tenure. This is going to be a very new look group. Guys who are coming from other places, who have other, they have been taught in different ways. They've been coached in different ways. They have played next to different types of guys, different body types, etc. How are they all going to mesh together? And again, I think the ceiling is very high. This program knows how to scout offensive line talent. How many times has K-State had a bad offensive line starter in recent memory?
I can't think of any that were bad. I didn't think Carver Willis was great last year, but I don't think he was bad.
He's fine. If fine is always your baseline.
Like a leak in the hull. They haven't had one of those.
Right, exactly. This program, coaching staff, recruiting folks, etc., they know how to find offensive line talent. So I don't have any doubt that these guys can play, but for me, are they going to mesh together? That is the big concern, I think, for K-State there. One other thing that to me is more question than concern, Dylan Edwards in his career has 205 touches from scrimmage. DJ Giddens last season had 205 rushes. What is the workload for Dylan Edwards? Because he is, outside of Avery Johnson, the best playmaker that K-State has. I think without question. Mm-hmm. What kind of load can he carry? I'm not saying he needs to carry the ball 205 times, but can he carry it more than 76 times, which he did at Colorado, which is a career high through his 2 seasons? What can you do with him in the running game? Because if it's that number, I've got a little more concern or questions again about what that rotation looks like. But if he can carry it 140, 150 times, that's assuaged because that dude might have 10, 50-yard touchdowns this year.
Yeah, and he's going to catch the ball out of the backfield too, and Joe Jackson's going to see a lot of work.
Yes, he will.
And I think Joe Jackson is really good. Yeah. I think he's got an immense amount of potential, and people will overlook him a little bit because Dylan Edwards is the headliner certainly in that backfield. But anybody who watched K-State last year knows Joe Jackson nice with it. Like, that boy nice, as they say. So I like that running back core, but it's only as good as the offensive line in front of him is going to be. Yep. And I think there's talent there, but I do have some concerns with do they find the right fit? Does it all mesh together? We'll take a time out here on 580 Sports Talk. Ryan Gilbert's going to join us from GoPowerCat.com. We'll talk about the K-State offensive line and more K-State topics with him. First, though, it's a round of What Is Wrong With You next on 580 WIBW. It is What Is Wrong With You time on 580 Sports Talk. What is Wrong With You? Sponsored today and every day by our buddy Mo, State Farm Agent Ryan Mo Winkle. Give Mo a call today for your insurance and financial needs. 785-273-1572. Our current weekly champion is the gentleman in Florida who broke into an unoccupied home and was just chilling there for 4 days, even taking a bath because he wanted to avoid arguing with his wife. What do you think they were arguing about?
I am going to guess he was gambling. I'm going to guess it was gambling related.
Well, I was trying to think of a thing that my wife and I could disagree about so fervently that it would cause me to try and hide from her. And it would probably be the air conditioning. If I said, honey, we need to stop running the AC. We need to do what everybody says you should do. Hey, run your AC at 78. If I said that, my wife would chase me out of the house.
That's pretty funny.
So that's our current winner. 2 news stories today. I'll go first. Let's call this story "My Mother the Snitch." We go to Henderson, Kentucky, where the Vanderburgh County Sheriff's Office says it has taken a juvenile suspect into custody in connection with a series of car break-ins and attempted residential burglaries. On June 19th, deputies responded to reports from 2 residents who discovered their vehicles had been unlawfully entered during the overnight hours. Items reported stolen included cash, a laptop computer, and designer handbags. Home surveillance footage captured video of the suspect wearing a clown-like mask at the scene. The mask was later discovered discarded on the roadway. 3 days later, deputies dispatched to the same neighborhood due to a report of suspicious activity. They were shown footage from a homeowner showing a masked individual attempting to open the doors of several locked vehicles. So those were the attempted burglaries on June 22nd. 3 different attempts, entry not gained on any of them. Images and video from the incidents were shared by residents and the sheriff's office on social media in an effort to identify the suspect. And the juvenile was turned in the next day by their parent. A parent. I say my mother the snitch. I don't know if it was mom or dad in question here. But it's funny to imagine mom dragging this hoodlum to the sheriff's office, probably by his earlobe, and saying, I found the burglar. It's my idiot kid. The juvenile provided a full confession during the interview with detectives. Search warrant was executed where investigators were able to recover multiple stolen items. They'll all be processed and returned to their rightful owners. The juvenile is 16 years old of Evansville, Kentucky.
Jeez Louise. My story today on What Is Wrong With You brought to you by our friend Mo, Ryan Mo Winkle. We're going to Florida, where a 74-year-old resident recently went on a rampage chasing paramedics with a shotgun, punching firefighters, and attempting to steal a fire truck. Police officers shared that a 74-year-old man from Ridge Manor needed assistance as they were dispatched to a medical call at about 10:30 a.m. near Leisure Street. Yes, that's a real place.
Now that rocks.
Paramedics arrived to administer aid to the 74-year-old who fell but couldn't get up due to being extremely intoxicated.
Hey, had himself a night on Leisure Street.
As they suggested, probably not the first time either. As they started to help, the man became combative, and according to Pasco News Online, the man popped up and grabbed a shotgun. I'm not sure why there was one in grabbing distance. He then chased the paramedics out of his home. The man ran out the front door of his house and hit firefighters as he ran to their fire truck and climbed inside, still with the shotgun. A first responder was still in the passenger seat as the old man tried to drive away. Police officers pulled up as the truck was pulling out and intervened. Deputies climbed on the moving truck and pulled the man out. But Grandpa wasn't ready to give up the fight and punched an officer in the face before eventually being arrested.
Jeez.
Yeah, he is going to be charged with multiple accounts of aggravated assault on first responders, battery on a law enforcement officer, and armed burglary of a vehicle.
Look, just wanted to have a calm night on Leisure Street, pounding some brews, and then had a wild hair. I should steal an ambulance.
One too many Red's Apple Ales.
Hey, you know what? I will take a ride in this ambulance, but I'm going to drive, and you're not going to stop me. I think that wins today, but I do think the tie goes to sobriety for the week, and we'll go with the gentleman who was squatting to avoid a conflict with his wife.
Yeah, me too. There's no way whatever they were fighting over was worth a squatting charge.
Andrew in the YouTube comments say he probably left the toilet seat up.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that is a good one. That is our winner still on What Is Wrong With You, brought to you by State Farm Agent Ryan Mo Winkle. Check out his website, Ryan Mo Winkle, MOHWINKLE.com. See what Ryan can do for you. Ryan Gilbert, GoPowerCat.com, can join us next to talk Cats on the Wildcat Wrap-up on 580 Sports Talk. Subbing in for Tim Fitzgerald on the Wildcat Wrap-up today on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline is Ryan Gilbert of GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Become a VIP subscriber today and get all of Fitz, Ryan, and the rest of the GoPowerCat staff's inside info on all things K-State. Ryan joins us here on 580 Sports Talk, and we were talking at the top of the hour, Ryan, about K-State this coming year and our biggest concern for K-State, the thing that might be the hindrance that keeps them from reaching their ceiling as a team, whether it was a position group or a coaching change or something intangible. I want your answer to that question. What would be the thing that you are the most concerned about for Kansas State football for 2025?
Well, it seems like the last number of years, there's been a lot of hype for the wide receiver room, and it's really just never been able to work out. And throughout the offseason, talking to people, listening to coaches in their press conferences, you're going to hear the good out of the whole team, right? And that remains true for the wide receivers as well. And just hasn't, really been there, hasn't delivered. That group has not delivered. So I'm falling for it again. I think many people are falling for it here. This time around, there's a lot to be excited about. Jace Brown was, a playmaker, a difference maker last year. You bring in Tibbs, you bring in Bradley, you kind of bolster up that wideout room. There is reason to be excited. There's reason to be optimistic. But, man, until you can really, truly see change on the field, you can't get too excited. And I feel like I've been burnt on this too many times. Many fans probably feel that same way, that there's been a lot of excitement for the wideouts year after year, and it's been a weak spot of Kansas State's offense. You're going to have Of course, a more mature Avery Johnson with a year under his belt. Hopefully he can grow and develop more as a passer in 2025. He's got the weapons certainly there to do so, but it's all got to come into place. So, this has kind of been my answer here, that year after year I've been let down with the wideouts. So until I'm proven wrong, I'm going to have to go with the wideouts as probably the biggest question mark for this team.
Outside of Jace Brown, who enters the year as the unquestioned wide receiver 1, who in this crop of wide receivers are you the most excited about? And it could be rationally or irrationally, but who do you like best out of that group to emerge and maybe have the best chance to be that wide receiver 2 complement?
Well, I know Fitz touched on this, I believe, on one of our podcasts this week or last week. Jerron Tibbs out of Purdue, I know he's heard some good things. He obviously is very plugged in that regard. So coming in from Purdue, right, didn't have maybe the best season, didn't have the best resume, but caught a couple of touchdowns, 300 yards. There is kind of something to be said for that. And, coming in from a Big Ten school, maybe that's not too impressive, but if you're posting up 300 yards at Kansas State, you were at least, having a decent year just in terms of, relative to kind of the pass catchers of last season's squad, Keegan Johnson, Dante Cephas. So I've heard a lot of good things about Tibbs. I'd have to go with Jerron Tibbs out of Purdue.
Both Brendan and I brought up the offensive line for Kansas State, which it didn't feel like it was quite up to some of the higher K-State standards at times last season. Addressed the position in the portal pretty heavily, brought in 4 transfers with Power 4 playing experience. But right now, it doesn't feel like they've got a real defined starting 5 going into next year. If you had to take a guess on June 25th, what that starting 5 might look like, how do you think it shakes out up front for the Cats? And do you think that that's a rigid starting 5, or do you really believe that Chris Kleiman and Matt Wells and Brian LePack might be more inclined to rotate bodies up front this year?
Yeah, they're going to be deep. Definitely going to rotate guys. And, Andrew Linegang, I think, is a perfect example of a versatile player. But, could he be a starter? Yes. And I think you're probably happy with that if you're a K-State fan, if he was able to crack into that 5. But if not, if he's maybe the 6th man or whoever the next man up, if there's an injury, I think you're okay with that as well. That would show off that you have some good depth. But, you look at, I think basketball is a real good example of a starting 5. You look at Kansas State this past season with so many newcomers. I mean, it is tough. It is very tough to gel together. It's not as important in football, just generally speaking, but on that offensive line, it is all about cohesiveness. It is all about gelling together. And so when you have so many new pieces forming together, there is going to be a learning curve there. So it's going to be very important, obviously, for Avery Johnson to have a nice wall in front of him that obviously can protect him. I'd be lying if I could rattle off, honestly, the 5 who I think are going to start from left to right, but it's going to be a deep group. They brought in a bunch of newcomers, and, that's a huge challenge is newcomers learning how to play together.
Ryan Gilbert is our guest, pinch hitting today on the Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. You can find Ryan's great work covering K-State over at GoPowerCat.com. If you're not a VIP for 24/7 Sports, you should be, because that's how you get all the best inside info before anyone else. On the recruiting trail, Ryan, I've got to ask you about Ian Premer and what you guys at GoPowerCat are hearing about the tight end from Great Bend, 4-star prospect, best player in the state this year. He is being recruited heavily by a number of programs, K-State and KU in-state, Iowa State, which has recruited Kansas very well in recent years, and then Notre Dame as well. And, it's hard to beat out the Golden Domers. Everybody, from what I can tell, feels like they're in a pretty good spot. But what is K-State hearing right now about where Premer might be leaning?
As far as Kansas State, maybe the staff themselves, I'm not sure if they're even hearing much. I think it's been very hush-hush all around. I know Ian hasn't been talking to many. I know our former, he used to work with GoPowerCat, Ryan Wallace, who's now with KC Sports Network, was able to talk with him and said that a commitment is coming anytime within the next, week, maybe 2 weeks at most. But I know Kansas State does feel good. Personally for us, Cole Carmody is our recruiting editor. He has not put in a crystal ball yet, but has shared on our message boards behind that paywall that he does feel pretty confident. Not confident enough to put a crystal ball in, of course, but he feels confident with Kansas State and kind of where things stand right now. But it's been hush-hush. There's not been a whole lot out there. I know Ian is planning on just putting it out on social media whenever he's ready. There's not going to be any sort of ceremony, or he's just going to put it out there, and that's that. So I think in Kansas State's eyes, Iowa State is probably in their eyes, the biggest threat. Now, obviously, Notre Dame and KU are in that top four. Anything can happen, but it seems like it's probably down to Iowa State or Kansas State at this point in time. And he's as advertised, great young man. Obviously, he's different. We talked about this on our podcast that went up this morning as well, that he is different than Lincoln Cure. There may be different types of players, but still just great athletes.
Yeah, it's definitely enticing because I know there's the question, well, why would he want to go to a school where there's already a star tight end there? And Lincoln Cure looks like he's going to be the real deal, kind of real deal. But I also, Ryan, feel pretty confident that K-State and Matt Wells would be more than happy to draw up some 12 personnel, 2 tight end stuff.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely this year something they're going to have to look into with all of the returning, tight end talent. I think Garrett Oakley you could probably deem him as the top dog in that tight end room, but you go down the line and, Braden Lofton, there's so many, Will Ancio, Will Swanson, capable playmakers in that room. And you got to spread the love a little bit. Now, I think, there's only so many pieces of the pie to go around, but you're going to get so many guys, so many different chances. And that's going to just get Matt Wells comfortable. That'll get Chris Kleiman, Avery Johnson. That'll probably just get everybody comfortable with spreading the love around to a number of tight ends. And yeah, I think if you're a pessimist, you could look at it and say, why would Ian, Premer want to go play and be behind Lincoln Cure? But we kind of believe that it's a plus for Kansas State. You get to go play alongside, whether you're right next to him or across the field from him, you get to go play alongside a heck of a playmaker and some of the other pieces on offense. That's very enticing. So I think it is probably a good thing that Kansas State was able to land Lincoln Cure. I don't think Lincoln Cure is going to scare off Ian Premer at all.
I wanted to flip over to the hardwood here. I know that's your area of expertise over at Go PowerCat, Ryan. And I wanted to ask in particular about Bryce Desert, the big man from France, because I know there were some rumors that K-State was recruiting him. He had been heavily recruited by Kansas, but then KU backed off. They were, concerned about eligibility, whatever. And then I saw that K-State was starting to recruit him a little bit. Do you know if the Wildcats are still targeting the French big man and how that's going? And whether they are or are not, what is the board looking like right now as we get deeper into the summer for Jerome Tang's group?
Yeah, as of right now, Wednesday, the last I heard, this was a couple of days ago, but it's probably unlikely K-State will land him. I think obviously the eligibility might be an issue, and also the NBA could be in the fold as well. So it doesn't look likely, but yeah, to answer your question, K-State was interested. I know there was some interest there, but it does look rather unlikely at this point. But, the second part of your question, a lot of it does depend on Tyreek Smith and if he's granted that extra year or not. If he is, then you're probably a lot more comfortable down low than if you don't get that granted. But I still am of the belief that with or without Tyreek Smith, with or without adding any big body down low, I think Jerome Tang has proven that he can win without having true size down low. You look at the 2023 Elite Eight season, it was David Gasson and Naquan Tomlin, by any means not big players down low. And then you look at the last couple seasons, it was Jerome Colbert, it was Ugo Onyenso, Will McNair. I'm not trying to bash those guys. They brought something to the table, but Jerome Tang's teams for back-to-back years were unsuccessful, missed the NCAA tournament when you had some more true centers on the team. So I'm personally not as worried about a lack of size as some others might be. It would be nice to go out and get, if there's the best player out there, pull out all the stops, absolutely go for it. But, I think K-State, Jerome Tang has proven that he can win with, smaller guards. Marquise Noel is a great example of that. So it all kind of depends, though, on Tyreek Smith and his waiver. I know I couldn't tell you the names of players, but there was one guy who got something similar approved. There was another guy who got it denied, and it's just, you never know with the NCAA nowadays.
Is there a timeline for when K-State and Tyreek Smith can expect a decision on that?
I don't think I can give you good answer on that. I'm not sure. I mean, again, NCAA.
Right.
You never know.
Last one for you, Ryan. This has been reported on the internet today that K-State and Creighton are going to play a men's basketball home and home. They'll be in Omaha this December with a return game coming to Manhattan the season following. Really like that bit of scheduling for Jerome Tang and the Cats.
Yeah, that'll be good. And obviously you're going to play in Kansas City. So for that tournament at T-Mobile, and you're going to have a lot of games obviously kind of close by. And it's interesting. Jerome Tang's scheduling philosophy, it's kind of been different. Some years have been tougher than others. We'll see how the rest of the schedule shakes out. But, I mean, that's awesome to go out to Creighton and play and, what I assume will be a tough atmosphere, a tough team, get yourself some good experience. Now, K-State, in its notable games in the non-conference last year, was unable to step up to the plate. So here in these kind of big-time non-conference matchups, Kansas State's going to have to show up.
Ryan Gilbert covers Kansas State athletics at GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network, and he subs in today for Tim Fitzgerald on the Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk. Ryan, appreciate you doing this on short notice. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk again soon.
Yep, thank you very much.
That is Ryan Gilbert. We will take a timeout, come back, and wrap up the 4 o'clock hour 580 Sports Talk. .456 on 580 Sports Talk. Our thanks again to Ryan Gilbert of GoPowerCat.com for joining us for this week's Wildcat Wrap-up. We continue our countdown to Chiefs kickoff. We're 72 days away from the Chiefs and the Chargers in Brazil, opening up the 2025 NFL season for the 3-time defending AFC champions. And if we're doing it now, you know that the player wearing number 72 is not a player of particular note. That's not entirely fair to the Chiefs' number 72, Chukwuebuka Godrick, who is the international pathway player for the Chiefs and has been for the last couple of seasons. Can't help but root for him to get into a game. Be very cool. A lot of those international pathway players have not done that, like Louis Reese-Zammit from 2 years ago, still waiting to make his NFL debut. He's with the Jaguars now. I believe he's in camp with them. Doesn't look like Chukwuebuka Godrick, whose name apparently autocorrects to Goodrich when you his last name. I don't know how Chukwuebuka got through when I was doing this on my phone last night, but Godrick got corrected to Goodrich. That's wild. But I don't think he's going to be the next Jordan Mailata. I think if he was going to be that, we already know. But pulling for Chukwuebuka to maybe make the active roster, make his NFL debut this year.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. It would be a really cool story. Some of those guys have worked out. You know who the best one ever is?
It's Mailata, right?
Mailata. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. By the way, there was just a story at Pro Football Talk about Louis Rees-Zammit today.
Really?
Yeah, he says he's going to give it 1 or 2 more years to try the American game before he goes back to rugby.
All the best to him. Got to hang on to the ball, show a little more game speed. Coming up in the next hour, final hour of the day, sports headlines, one got to go, and a Royals preview on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Third and final hour of 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon, turning to evening in the capital city. Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski with you. This is 580 Sports Talk on the Sports Voice of Kansas. 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our video stream. Catch us on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And while you're there, interact with us throughout the show and interact with your fellow listeners throughout the show in the live chat. You can also watch us on our Facebook page, WIBW News. You can also text us, 785-272-9429 is the text line number. That's 785-272-9429. One more hour of 580 Sports Talk, and then we'll hand things off at 6 o'clock to the Royals Baseball Network. See if the Royals can win a home game this month, because they literally have not this month. They are 0 for June at the K. 8 straight home losses. They are going to try to break that ignominious streak tonight behind Michael Wacha on the mound against Tampa Bay's Drew Rasmussen. First pitch is set for 6:40 tonight. You'll catch it all right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. We'll have a game preview a little bit later on this hour. Also have our 580 Sports Talk headlines and a rousing game of One Gotta Go still to come this hour as well. I had something and I lost it.
Happens to the best of us.
It just, wow, right in one ear and right out the other ear. I was wound up to deliver a pitch, and I came forward and I didn't even have a baseball in my hand.
Fuck.
Yeah, that is a pitch violation, automatic ball. That is that's tough. I have no idea how that happened. Big day today in my world. Big day today in my world. The Phil Steele magazine is at the Topeka Barnes & Noble, and I went and picked up my copy today.
There we go.
I support independent publishers like our guy Phil Steele.
Where does he rank KU and K-State?
So
I haven't gotten my copy yet.
Yeah, so this is fairly hot off the presses, the Phil Steele annual, jam-packed with information. Doesn't say jam-packed on the front. What the hell? It says the book the experts cannot do without. We know that's true. But it does not say jam-packed with information like it always used to.
Oh, it's thinned out, I guess.
No, it has not. It is still quite heavy.
I'm excited to dig through the page of people who follow him on Twitter. That's one of my favorite pages in the book.
Yes, his brag book out front. Like, here's all the people who follow me on Twitter. Like,
wow. Urban Meyer, Ryan Day, Bonnie Hunt. All right.
I'm just gonna pick 3 names at random here. Willie Rofe, Rebecca Grant. I don't know who that is. Marcellus Wiley.
Who the heck is Rebecca Grant?
Got nothing for you.
An actress?
The first name on this page is John Cena.
Hell yeah. I don't know who Rebecca Grant is.
Nah, I got nothing for you there. To answer your question, Phil Steele projects a tie at the top of the conference, a 3-way tie at the top of the conference between Baylor, Utah, and Iowa State.
Nope. Sorry, Phil. I can't agree with that one.
He has a 3-way tie behind them with Kansas State, Arizona State, and Texas Tech. A 2-way tie at 7th place, TCU and BYU, and then Kansas and Cincinnati, 9th. So,
I don't know about that one, Jim. Not so sure about that.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that he's as bullish as he is on Cincinnati. Certainly higher on Utah than I think most, which, this is the most accurate magazine over the last 30 years. That's what it says on the front. Also, I would just put a page in there that said John Cena follows me on social media. If John Cena followed me on Twitter/X, I would put a whole page in my magazine just with a picture of John Cena. Like, he knows where to get his college football information from me.
John Cena played college football. Did you know that?
I think I did.
Yeah, D3 ball up in Massachusetts.
Oh, really? Williams or one of those schools? Or?
It wasn't Williams. Shoot. Yeah, he was D3 player.
In this house,
Springfield College.
In this house, we love and respect Division III football. Go to Paw Tigers.
I am not disrespecting any sort of small. In fact, he was an All-American center at Springfield College.
That's That's interesting. I'm surprised quarterbacks were able to handle the snap from a center they couldn't see.
By the way, Rebecca Grant, I don't believe this woman is real. I remember looking her up before when I thought, who the hell is this? She does at least some sort of stuff in the wrestling space. She was on a show on Fox called Under the Helmet about the NFL sometime in the past. I don't know. The grammar in her bio on the Everything app is a mess.
I'll take your word for it. Yeah, that's just something that this is like. So for me, there are two things that always herald the coming of college football season, and one of those for many years was the release of the college football video game, which always came out in July. And then, of course, for 11 years, it didn't come out at all. And it came out again last year, and it was wonderful, and it fixed me in some ways. And I am very much looking forward to this year's version. Will I get to play it? Given that I have a 1-year-old in the house, who's to say? Perhaps, but I will. I'll be purchasing it.
This woman was also featured in Maxim.
Oh man, there you go.
And she also went viral worldwide for the search term "boob grab."
Ah, sure.
Right.
Yeah, that's one to brag about, Phil.
Good job. Good job, Phil. Dude, there is so much info in that. We're not paid to do this. I wish we were. I wish we were paid to do this.
Phil Steele's an independent publisher who's been doing this magazine for 30 years, and I have bought it every year of my life since I think I was a junior in high school. So you go back to 2003. So I've been buying this book over 20 years. And I used to, again, to dovetail here, I would get it, and then I would fill in the rosters on the old NCAA football video game.
Yep.
So I would know who, like, quarterback number 6 for, like, Western Kentucky was.
Who was it?
It was totally hypothetical. But
no, I mean, it's great. There's all sorts of stuff in there that's like, oh, here is this weird model that I developed 30 years ago, and it shouldn't have worked, but it actually totally predicts win-loss records.
Yeah, all of this stuff makes a lot of sense. Like this stock up, stock down, draft day, attrition, like all this stuff makes sense.
Teams that got almost all their defensive production from turnovers and won all one-score games. Like there's real good stuff.
Yeah, it's changed the way that you think about football a little bit, and certainly excites you for the season. I always like looking at his surprise teams.
Yeah,
because he's usually pretty good at picking out who the surprises are going to be. His number one surprise team this year, Oklahoma.
Sure, the team that flies under the radar, Oklahoma.
A lot of Big 12 teams on his list. Utah is his number 4, which you might have guessed, given that he's picking them to maybe win the league. Arizona State is 6th, Baylor's 8th, Iowa State is 11th, and K-State is 13th.
How can Arizona State be under the radar if they went to the playoff?
Given that they will not be a preseason top 25 team in all likelihood.
Yeah. You know what else that magazine is good for? Gambling.
Yes. I can confirm that.
Not quite like as thinly veiled as Warren Sharp using the name Warren Sharp, which is not his name. It's literally a gambling pun. But Phil has never quite covered up his affinity for the lines, the spreads, the totals.
Yeah, point spread history is very much a part of the team pages. Yeah, if you've never gotten this, you're missing out. And support a independent publisher. It's only available at the Barnes & Noble. So if you're in Topeka, they've got a bunch of copies. And I went and bought mine today, and it was a very special day because this was the other thing I was talking about. The thing that always heralds, like I'm trying to think if there's anything really for me, like the when I get baseball prospectus in the bookstore or have that shipped to me, that's like, all right, it's baseball season. I used to get the prospect annual from Baseball America, but they started charging like dope prices for that. And I had to cut back on that. I didn't need to know that desperately who the 29th ranked prospect for the Texas Rangers was.
Yeah, that's a little information overload.
Yeah, maybe I might turn around, like subscribe to Baseball America instead, or Baseball Prospectus or whatever. But that's why we're fired up about college football around here. One of the reasons, because they're leaking details about the upcoming College Football 26 video game. I got the Phil Steele guide. I can getting torqued, get excited for college football again.
It's almost here.
Somebody, one of my good friends, Andrew Hammond, on Blue Sky today was asking what was the peak of college football. Like, what were the peak years of college football before it became, and the way he framed it, like when it was just about the sport, before it became essentially a chest beating contest between two conferences. What was the peak of college football? And I said 1869 to 2014. That was a period of time in college football before there was a playoff.
Yeah,
I firmly believe this, that everything that you don't like out there, everything that you don't like about college football, all because we have a playoff now.
I mean, I don't like the playoff. You've heard me a time or two share my disdain for it.
And that's
perfect BCS.
And yes, we had everything and we threw it away. We had it all and we threw it away. The real answer is probably the 90s. The 90s were peak college football era. It was before the BCS, so you still had the bowls. The bowls still mattered. There weren't that many of them yet. The conferences all still made geographic sense, even with the dissolution of the Southwest Conference and the growth of the Big 8 to the Big 12. Like, everything made geographic sense. There were more games available on TV at that point because you had there were finally more national games. After in the 80s, it was very rare to get a national game.
2007, 2008. That's my answer.
Who was good in 2007 and 2008, Brendan?
So 2007, Kansas. And they were good in 2008 too. Won 8 games, won the Insight Bowl for Minnesota. No, honestly, my favorite storyline from 2008 was the triangle at the top of the Big 12 with Texas Tech, Texas, Oklahoma. That was awesome.
No, I agree with you that things were very good. In the late 2000s. Yeah. 2007 is the all-time like chaotic college football season.
I wouldn't have even called KU my primary favorite team at that point, but the team that was also good. Illinois went to the Rose Bowl.
Yes, they did. Shout out to Juice Williams.
Don't ask me what happened during that Rose Bowl. I don't like to think about it.
They beat Ohio State. All that matters. Let's get into some headlines here on 580 Sports Talk, shall we? We got some headlines. We're going to start on the college hardwood. Another commit for Kansas basketball. The headline from Fog.net. Kansas lands international big man. And apologies if we get this name wrong. Paul Mbia. I have heard Mbia. I have heard Mbaya. There was no pronunciation guide offered in the KU press release, but
I think it's Mbia.
Yesterday on the show, Michael Swain said Mbia. So we'll go with that as the in-house pronunciation until we hear differently. Paul Mbia will be classified as a freshman for Kansas in the 2025-26 season. He comes overseas from France. He had previously been committed to NC State, but requested a release from that commitment. The 20-year-old has a preposterous 7'8" wingspan to go with a 6'11" frame and a max vertical leap of near 35 inches. 6'11", 240 pounds. He will be the primary backup center to Flory Badunga this coming season. And as he does have freshman eligibility, he'll have a chance to perhaps grow into a starting role if Badunga has the kind of year many project for him that would move him in a direction of declaring for the NBA draft after his sophomore year. Big get for KU. They're finally all set in the front court.
Yeah, this is big. To get Rosario as your athlete shooter off the bench on the perimeter yesterday, Mbia, I mean, he's freakishly proportioned. That a plus 11,
looks
I
like
believe
a condor.
Wing, yeah, it's crazy. There's only been 2 other draft prospects, guys who measured in at the combine in the last 5 years who had wingspans that were more disproportionate than that in a positive way. So crazy alignment there. I'm curious what the minute split is going to look like. And maybe it just ends up being whoever's in foul trouble plays last between him and Flory. That might be what it comes down to. But crazy athleticism down there. I don't know how good KU is going to be at shooting the ball this year. Not that MB factors into that at all.
Boy, but
they're going to
familiar.
be athletes. They are going to be athletic. And we talked about that with Michael yesterday. Most athletic KU team in quite a while. It might not matter because guys don't stay anywhere for 4 years anymore. But the fact that he played professionally in France, he's from the Democratic Republic of the Congo originally, Kinshasa. The fact that he was playing professionally and still can qualify as a freshman, that is a big deal. I don't think it will matter in the long run. But for him, if he bounces around in college for a long time, which a lot of guys do, that's pretty significant. And even for KU, you never know. You'd like to have the option to have him long-term rather than not. So I'm excited about this player. You filled your 2 remaining biggest needs with the last 2 days. And it's could not have gone better for Bill Self at this part of the year.
And it's a bit of get back for Bill Self after losing Darian Williams to NC State.
That game down in the Triangle this year is going to be wild.
Looking forward to the pre- and post-game handshakes.
Also, if I'm Oregon, I'm thinking, Dana, what the hell? They were the favorites to land Mbia originally before he surprise committed to NC State. Nobody knew that NC State was going to get him. That was a surprise. Then Oregon again was considered the favorite when he decommitted and was released by NC State. And then in the last 24 hours or so, there was a lot of movement and eventually committed to KU. Dana Altman's going to be thinking, dude, what did I do wrong? What the hell?
Let's do another headline, Brendan.
Yeah, let's stick with college basketball. We heard about the Washburn men's transfers a few weeks ago. They announced their full 4-man transfer class. Well, the Washburn women's basketball team announced their 3-player class today. Kylan Shipman from Laramie, Wyoming originally. Shipman, yeah.
Let's
emphasize the
P.
Brittany Cugbera, who is originally from Peoria, Arizona. She's a transfer from Mesa Community College. She was a JUCO All-American. Kylan, by the way, she's from Regis out in Colorado. And Kellen Hunter, a junior guard from Mobile, Alabama, transfer in from Spring Hill College. She was freshman of the year in that league 2 seasons ago. In fact, she was first team all-conference this past year in the SIAC. Brittany, again, a JUCO All-American these past 2 years. And Kylan was played sparingly this past year for Regis, but was all-state, all-conference, all-everything as a high school player in Wyoming. Washburn needed some depth down low,
yes,
which they have added here. Cugbera, she's a 6-foot junior and needed guard depth. And you got to see them plenty last year. I obviously did. The starting 5 for Washburn, really good. Really good. Needed a backup point guard, needed some more shooting depth, needed post depth behind Bari. Hit all 3 of those needs. Great class here for Coach Wessling.
Very excited to see what they become in year 3 under Wessling next year because everybody's back and they've added with a strong transfer class as well. Next headline, let's go back to college basketball. This was being reported by Matt Norlander and is now official from CBS Sports. NCAA votes. I got the headline covered up by a freaking pop-up ad. NCAA votes to increase college basketball schedules to 32-game season beginning in 2026-27. So not this season, but the season to come, an increase from 31 games to 32 games for both men's and women's college basketball. That comes after a 19-year run of a 31-game maximum. Teams won't be required to play 32 games, but will have the option to do so. The primary issue driving the decision to go to 32 is tied to multi-team events, which had become more restrictive with some of their NCAA guidelines due to conference expansion, leading to schools from the same leagues playing in the same events. That was previously not allowed, but now is. Sometimes those 3-game multi-team events were roadblocks for a variety of schools trying to work through the logistics of non-conference scheduling. 32-game limit will include all games, meaning contests against non-Division I opponents also count towards the total, but not exhibition games. You can still play those. It also allows big in-season tournaments to be able to schedule 3 or 4-game multi-team events like the expanding Players Era event, which KU will be a part of this year. Allows more opportunity for programs to schedule as needed with the potential for more high-profile matchups in the regular season, including non-conference games in January or February, which have kind of gone by the wayside largely. You had for a while the Big 12 SEC Challenge, which went away, but I like the idea of having a big non-conference showdown, like a bracket buster or, not necessarily a rigid conference versus conference showdown, but the flexibility to go and play a marquee opponent in February to maybe break up the monotony of a 18-game conference schedule.
Yeah, I would love to see bracket busters come back. Like, I want to see...
I miss bracket busters. Every day I miss bracket busters.
First week of February, last week of January, whatever, an impromptu KU is going to go play against SMU or whatever, and name any team. The mid-majors specifically, I think that could be a big deal for them. That'd be fun. That's a lot of basketball. That's still not, even half of an NBA season, but that is a lot more basketball, even 2 more games.
Next headline, we got more college sports.
Yes, let's stick with college sports here. We've got some realignment news and notes today. I know how much we love to talk about this. This from Pete Thamel of ESPN. I'll get through this quickly. Texas State officials have informed the Sun Belt they are expecting an offer from the Pac-12 in the near future. The talks between Texas State and the Pac-12 have intensified in the last 24 hours. So if you would like a recap of this week, the Pac-12 is primarily interested in Texas State. Negotiations have continued between the Pac-12 and Texas State. Now Texas State has told the Sun Belt they expect an invitation from the Pac-12. Guys, this could have been an email. This could have been one report today and saved us a lot of time, but that's happening. Texas State is going to join the Pac-12. That is going to happen. What will happen with the Sun Belt in their place? Hard to say from that point. They've got some options if they want to add another team. I will say it is noteworthy. This needs to get done by Monday because as of July 1st, or after July 1st, I should say, which is Tuesday next week, it becomes twice as expensive to leave a conference for the following year. So right now, for Texas State, if they leave by Monday or Tuesday morning, whatever, and say, hey, we got an invitation, we're going to the Pac-12 after this coming season, they pay $5 million. If they wait until after July 1st, $10 million. It doubles because it's a new revenue year, essentially. So you got to get it done within the next 5 days or so. And again, that's going to happen. That is the elasticity the Pac-12 needs. You got to have 8 active FBS members who play football to be an official FBS conference. This will get them there.
It will be a fun conference. I don't know that it will be remotely comparable to the Power Fours,
no.
But it will be fun.
No, I mean, I think it'll be right there next to the Sun Belt as the bet. And honestly, probably I would even say a little bit better than the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt's just so perfectly matched. Mm-hmm. The rivalries are great. The teams are all on an even playing field. But no, I think the new Pac-12 will be a very fun conference. Elsewhere, smaller school, we'll get through this quickly. A couple teams that are FCS are moving. So some of the smaller Division I basketball schools as well. Southern Utah and Utah Tech, the former Dixie State, they're moving to the Big Sky Conference. The WAC, as we know it, dead. It's over. It's done with.
Yep. The remaining WAC schools that play football are going to continue their partnership with the Atlantic Sun Conference, and they will rebrand, in fact, as a football league as the United Athletic Conference. For $1 million, name the 10 teams in the United Athletic Conference.
Okay. Tarleton State. Okay, I know Tarleton. I know a team in the A-Sun. I know Bellarmine doesn't have football. Who else is in that league?
Tick tock.
Jesus.
Tick tock. Tick tock.
Yeah, man.
Tick,
I don't know
tock.
if I can pull the rest of them from the WAC. No. I don't know.
All right. The teams that will
I'm gonna get so
play
mad.
in the United Athletic Conference.
Oh, there's an Arkansas
Abilene
school.
Christian.
Who Christian?
Abilene Christian.
Okay.
Central Arkansas.
Yeah, okay. I knew that one.
Austin P.
I thought they were still in the Ohio Valley.
Eastern Kentucky.
I thought they were in the Ohio Valley.
North Alabama.
All right.
Southern Utah. Stephen F. Austin.
Well, not Southern Utah anymore.
Yeah, no, their football will be in this league. Remember, Big Sky doesn't have football.
Yes, it does.
Or Big West.
Yeah, so Southern Utah's going to the Big Sky, which does have football.
Yes, but they don't. They're going to stay in this. Well, wait a second. Is this an old?
That might be old.
Maybe they're. Yeah, this is. Wow, the Atlantic Sun put a 2-year-old story on their front page.
Unless because Southern Utah is not going to stay in a worse league for football only.
Yeah,
that would be crazy.
No. You're right. That's we screwed that up. My apologies. The teams that will be full members of the United Athletic Conference will be Abilene Christian, Austin P, Central Arkansas, Eastern Kentucky, North Alabama, Tarleton State, Texas Arlington, and West Georgia. So it will be an 8-team FCS conference.
UT Arlington has football
since 2026.
Oh, okay. They're starting football.
Yes. So is West Georgia. Well, maybe not. They might not be starting it. Yeah, I guess I don't know much about UTA's football program.
They're moving up from D2, I believe. Is that West Georgia's moving up from D2?
Yes. Okay. Yes, they are. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, so that's your realignment updates. That's a mess, dude. Because then the Atlantic Sun is going to stay a basketball conference.
Yeah.
And the teams still in that are going to keep doing their thing.
It'll
Bellarmine and Lipscomb and all them.
It'll sort of be like how the Missouri Valley had its own like football thing it was doing, and it just branded as the Missouri Valley Football Conference there. It's essentially the
similar
same
thing.
Like the A-Sun will continue to exist, and then the football playing schools of the WAC will join this league. And it will be its own separate deal, this United Athletic Conference. Yeah, a lot of schools with not much in common. I will say this. I do think Texas State joining the Pac-12, I expect this, barring something calamitous happening in the ACC. And there appears to be at least an uneasy piece within the ACC right now. Clemson and, was it Florida State or North Carolina?
Florida State.
Florida State. They dropped their lawsuit.
Yep.
Barring anything calamitous happening there, I think this is the last piece of college sports realignment news at the highest level that we're going to have for a while. I think we're done with conference roulette for a bit.
2031.
Yeah.
Because that's when every conference either has an out or their contract just ends with their TV partners.
But hey, we can at least get used to, like, we're going to know next year, okay, 8 teams in the Pac-12. And the Mountain West is going to add, they're adding Northern Illinois. Forgot about that.
Yeah, they are. For football only.
Football only. Oh, my God. Anyway, that's our 580 Sports Talk headlines for the day. We'll take a break. We'll come back. We'll play around a one gotta go surrounding a big event tonight, the NBA draft. One of my questions. We'll talk about that next. Plus, we got some Royals baseball to get to still on this final hour, 580 Sports Talk. One gotta go on 580 Sports Talk. Tonight is the NBA draft. All 59 picks will be made tonight. Remember when they split the draft? No, it is a two-day draft.
It's a two-night thing.
I thought they were going back to the one night this year.
No.
They did.
Dude, absolutely zero people are going to watch tomorrow.
No. The only reason anybody tuned into last year's second round because they wanted to see if Bronny James would get drafted.
Correct.
Yes, that's the only reason. I can't believe they stuck with it for another year. I really thought they were going to go back. I really thought it was just like plainly obvious what they were doing last year, and that they were going to go back. They did not go back.
Well, it's the NBA. Like the draft is just so different than the football draft, the NFL draft. And there are, I would say, like by percentage, far fewer NBA people watch college basketball compared to NFL people who watch college football.
Yeah, no, that is definitely true.
Also, even for like people like us who follow and like and watch college basketball all the time, to a religious degree, it's hard, especially if that's your primary basketball, to like reconcile that with the guys who actually get drafted. Like, what? That guy?
No,
like how many people who like are an above average college basketball fan like have a strong opinion on Cedric Coward?
Very few.
Who was a D2 guy, transferred to Eastern Washington, transferred to Washington State, played 6 games. He is almost certainly going top 10 tonight. And then most people are like, who?
Right.
What?
Well, at the very least, this does project to be a more college-heavy draft tonight, which last year it was a bunch of guys from France. Like there were 2 Frenchmen that went 1-2, and nobody here, unless you're an absolute basketball sicko, nobody in this country had ever seen those guys play. And to me, they were bad. Zachary Riza-Shea actually had a really nice rookie season for the Hawks. But you do have a little bit more connection to the draft if these are guys you've actually seen if you have watched college basketball. But there is a bit of difference from being like, okay, Walter Clayton was the most outstanding player of the NCAA of the Final Four for the national champions, and maybe he's a first rounder. Like it is. It's a little bit different in that way for sure. Anyway, breaking news into 580 Sports Talk. I am reporting exclusively. You won't get this anywhere else. You were hearing this for the first time. The Dallas Mavericks will select Duke's Cooper Flagg with the number 1 overall pick tonight.
God, but it would be so funny if they didn't.
Must credit Dan Lucero of 580 WIBW Topeka with that news. The Dallas Mavericks will select Cooper Flagg from Duke as the number 1 overall pick. That is a fait accompli. What I'm more interested in for the sake of this game, we're playing one guy to go here. The guys who project to go 2 through 5. Not every mock draft has these guys 2 through 5, mind you, but these are the consensus 2 through 5 in the NBA draft. Rutgers guard Dylan Harper, Rutgers guard Ace Bailey. Yeah, Rutgers might have had 2 top 5 picks, and they went 15 and 17. Baylor guard VJ Edgecombe and Duke guard Con Knuppel. Of those 4, one got to go. Give me one that you do not believe should be a top 5 pick.
It's the low-hanging fruit because he's been falling down draft boards, but I'm going to go with Ace Bailey here. And I don't think he's a bad player necessarily, but Dylan Harper was the best player on that Rutgers team, clearly, I think.
By some distance.
And he's got the NBA pedigree. His dad was Ron Harper. His brother, Ron Harper Jr., was a good college player, too.
Yes, he was.
Dylan Harper's awesome. He's going to go 2nd overall. Really, really good player. Con Knuppel, it sounds like, has some real big fans in the NBA. I like his game. A dude named Khan going top 5 is strange to me for some reason. But I like his game. I think he's a nice player. And I'm a big fan of VJ Edgecombe. The problem with VJ Edgecombe that I think he kind of falls in the like Marvin Bagley is sort of like this, but he was a big like Josh Jackson or not Jared Vanderbilt, the other one, Jared Culver, who was later in the draft. But these dudes who are just so freakishly athletic at the college game, and they play this very violent kind of game getting downhill. But even for a more positionless NBA, like, what exactly are you going to do for a team that's good? Like, what's kind of your role? I loved watching him at Baylor, though. He single-handedly beat Kansas State this past year.
Yeah, he did. I like Edgecombe a lot. I think I might like him the best of the group, even if everybody thinks Dylan Harper's going number 2 to San Antonio, which would leave Edgecombe to go 3 to Philadelphia.
But Ace Bailey didn't do any workouts. He was the only American college player who did not do a single workout. What? And I heard a rumor. Well, I read a rumor that he was worried about getting drafted by one of the like truly terrible, like Charlotte. And he was like, I don't want to do that. So he essentially intentionally tanked himself a little bit, but it just made a lot of guys around the league angry.
So this is the story that made me.
So Bailey's my answer, by the way.
Okay. I'm buying Ace Bailey.
Okay.
Because at one of his pre-draft interviews, and you've probably heard this, but for the benefit of those who haven't, one of his pre-draft interviews, he was asked, "What do you believe your two strengths are, and what do you believe your biggest weakness is?" You know, the old compliment sandwich, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're doing it for yourself. Two strengths and weaknesses. And he told the person interviewing him, "I don't have any weaknesses, and I got way more than two strengths, big dog." Give me the confidence.
That is confidence.
I will take the confidence. For the sake of the argument, then I will. My one got to go is Knipple, who the analytics really like him. I will be that boy nice watcher rather than the analytics guy for a change, which is not usually how I operate if you've ever listened to this show. But I'll give Bailey the nod over Knipple. Also, I don't know if Knipple's strong enough.
Knipple kind of feels like his ceiling is really useful role player on a good team. Like, he's not going to be an all-star, but like,
right.
Kind of like Desmond Bane with the Grizzlies. If the Grizzlies hadn't like had a complete brain meltdown this season, that's sort of how I see. Which a good player. I mean, you'll make a lot of money and play a long time doing that.
No question about it. Do not expect that we will see a Kansas Jayhawk have their name called tonight. That is
or tomorrow.
That is the anticipation among Big 12 players that you might hear have their name called tonight. It's again not a particularly long list. The one I feel really good about hearing their name called tonight would be Igor Demon, the point guard out of BYU. And again, if you watched BYU, you thought, okay, well, like Demon's like their third or fourth most important guy, but he's a 6'9" point guard. Mm-hmm. And he's like 19.
Yeah, I, again, just kind of reading and doing a crash course in brain surgery on the draft. I have read that there are some teams that love Demon because of the measurables and 6'9" point guard with like real passing skill. And there are some teams that wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole because he had some games at BYU where like, have you ever played basketball before?
We talked to CJ Moore about him because CJ wrote him up preseason for The Athletic and came back and said, he wasn't as good as I thought he was going to be. He wasn't quite as impactful. He had some moments, certainly, and he's going to hear his name tonight. Do the Bulls have a pick?
Yes. Doesn't matter who they take.
Okay. The Nuggets have 0 picks. Not tonight, not tomorrow. They're the only team in the league without a pick.
No, that's sick, actually. Just chill.
It would be more sick if we hadn't used our second-round pick to get Reggie Jackson 2 years ago.
That's probably
that would have been better.
For what it's worth, I don't think he'll fall that far. I'm kind of hoping for Kayman Malawach from Duke.
I like him.
Bulls need a center so badly.
You got to go?
Yeah, we're going full circle with the conversation we had at the end of 3 o'clock hour and the very start of the 4 o'clock hour. Hot links, brisket, pulled pork, ribs. One got to go.
I'm going to say pulled pork.
Ooh.
And the reason I'm saying pulled pork is I think pulled pork has the lowest floor. I haven't had a lot of bad brisket. I haven't had a lot of bad hot links. I haven't had a lot of bad ribs. But I have encountered pulled pork I didn't like. And I think that pulled pork is like it's the easy one, so to speak. So maybe you don't put the effort into it like you put into the other dishes at some places. I don't know. I'm not going to name names where I've had pulled pork that I felt like was mediocre. I'm not going to do that. But yeah, I would say, and look, at its best, love pulled pork. But I would say lowest floor, pulled pork. So I love hot links and I love ribs. And brisket might, you know what? It may also be regional because there are some like in Texas, brisket is king. And some other places, they don't really do brisket all that well.
So I actually thought pulled pork had one of the higher floors, but a lower ceiling. Like, generally speaking, when you get pulled pork, you know what you're getting. I'm ordering because I want pork, not because I necessarily love this place's pork. I just want pork.
But sometimes it can be dry, kind of stringy.
So I will say, you were very nice. I will not be. I know a lot of people love Q39. I had pulled pork there that was like wet, like straight up like watery. I don't know how they did it.
Damn,
it was very strange. But I like pulled pork. I'm going to keep it. Ribs are great. I'm keeping ribs. I've been on a major hot links kick recently. Like that's been a go-to for a while. I think brisket has the highest ceiling of any of these, like by far. But Black's Barbecue, Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
Brisket,
Texas,
elite, truly untouchable. I think brisket has the lowest floor. Y'all have seen the Lincoln Riley picture. He murdered it.
Yeah,
an already dead animal. He killed it again.
Bad brisket, you almost can't recover it even with all the sauce.
See, and there's the thing, is that if you cook it even slightly too long, like There's no like B- brisket. You either got an A or you got an F.
See, I feel that way about pulled pork.
And,
but
I
see your
worry
argument.
too much about the low floor.
I see your argument. Vance and Andrew in the YouTube chat both say hot links got to go. Man.
I see. I am a recent convert to the Hot Links crew.
There's a jalapeno sausage they have at Slaps, which is on the other side of the river to KCK, just over the bridge.
Yep.
Kind of a tricky one to get to. You got to be like on your P's and Q's to hit the exit and find it on the side of the road. But their hot links are outrageous. Some of the best I've ever had. Hog Wild. I get the hot links on my loaded baked potato. I love the hot links at Hog Wild.
Yep. This is why I've been getting the cowboy plate at Joe's. I got to get all of this.
Man, I love hot links. Mark suggests a Carolina Gold mustard sauce on pulled pork. I'm not a huge fan of the Carolina barbecue.
See, I like South Carolina. The mustard that Mark B's talking about, the mustard, that's South Carolina. I like that. I don't like mustard, but I like the sauce. It's quite a paradox. But on pulled pork, I agree. Mark B, 100% right. North Carolina vinegar-based sauce, you can put that one in the trash. Get that out of my face. Yuck.
That answers Andrew's question. Which style of barbecue has to go?
North Carolina. I like South Carolina. North Carolina, I'm out.
How would you categorize the cookout barbecue sandwich with the slaw and the hot sauce? Is that more of a South Carolina thing, or because that's what I had when I went to cookout?
Yeah, I don't know that I'd call that the South Carolina like gold mustard sauce.
No,
I'm trying to think. It's almost more KC, honestly.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. Because Memphis and Texas don't use the sauce the same way we do.
You guys know I have no like lifelong connection to the Kansas City area, but I quickly decided that Kansas City was the king of barbecue. Memphis is a close second. Texas is third, and everyone else fighting for who has to go. But I will keep Texas, I will keep Memphis, and I will keep Kansas City. We'll take a break. We'll come back. A little bit of Royals chatter as we wind down here on 580 Sports Talk. The next time we talk to you after we sign off today, the Royals-Rays series will be in the books. Tomorrow is a day game, a 1:10 first pitch. So we'll plan to be on the air around 4, bring you a truncated edition of 580 Sports Talk tomorrow. We'll see if the Royals get back on track. Maybe they'll have won a home game this month by the time we talk to you again. They'll take a crack at it tonight with Michael Wacha on the mound against Drew Rasmussen for Tampa Bay. It's a real simple equation for Michael Wacha. When he doesn't allow home runs, he's really good. And most pitchers are like that. But in his previous 2 starts before his last one, he had allowed 2 home runs in each start. Last time out, he didn't allow a home run, and he was really good. He's been a lot more often than not this year for Kansas City, carrying a 3.24 ERA into tonight's game.
I have a lot of respect for Michael Wacha. I have been converted into a Wacha head over the course of this season. Wasn't like rooting against him last year by any means, but guys who play for the Cardinals that long just kind of have a stench on them, right? You got some funk to you. You got a bad reputation. No, I've really appreciated what he's brought to the table in all seriousness. Last year, certainly useful, serviceable starter, and this year he's been dang good. He's kind of flown under the radar because the headlines are grabbed by Reagan's had a hot start, but he's been injured. Chris Bubic has obviously been great. Lugo, a little up and down, different than last year. The offense being miserable. Caglione, he's like the 8th biggest headline, but he's had a really nice year so far. And that stability has been very welcome because the Royals really haven't had a lot of it otherwise.
Wacha is such an interesting analytics case because his changeup is his best pitch by a lot. Like by far, it's his most valuable pitch. You look at like run values for different pitches, hits his changeup, and his other pitches aren't as good. Like he doesn't have a great fastball, he doesn't have a great curveball, but he's got a great changeup. So the argument is always, well, throw your best pitch more often. But does the impact of having your best pitch be a changeup diminish over the course of your time as a starter? Like Trevor Hoffman could spam changeups because you only saw him for 1 inning, and he could just throw that legendary changeup over and over again. He rode that all the way to the Hall of Fame. Can you really do that as a starter? I kind of don't think you can. But I think Michael Wacha throws his changeup an appropriate amount. And I don't, that's one analytic argument that I can't really get behind when it comes to the changeup, if that's your best pitch. It'd be one thing, like, if you've got an elite slider, yeah, throw 75% sliders. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you can throw, like, 50% changeups. I don't think that works.
At that point, you're just throwing a slow pitch.
Right. Yeah. At that point, yeah, you may as well develop a change off of your change and see how that works for you. The lineup backing Michael Wacha tonight: Jonathan India at second base, Bobby Witt Jr. at short, Maikel Garcia DHing tonight after he made that gross error at third last night. He bats third. Vinny Pasquantino's at first base. Salvador Perez is doing the catching. Jack Caglione is in right field. Nick Lofton's at third base tonight, batting seventh. John Rave is in left. Kyle Isbell is in center field. The lineup for the Rays tonight: Yandy Diaz bats lead off. He's 7 for 8 lifetime against Chris Bubic. He's got to be so crushed. Bubic isn't pitching tonight.
Can you go again, please?
Diaz DHing. Brandon Lau at second base. Junior Caminero at third. Jonathan Aranda at first, hitting cleanup. Christopher Morel, former Cub, in left field, batting fifth. Josh Lowe, not to be confused with Brandon Lau. Josh Lowe in right field, batting sixth. Jose Caballero is the shortstop. Chandler Simpson in center. Danny Jansen, who had 3 RBI last night, does the catching and bats ninth in support of Drew Rasmussen, who's been outstanding. Had a run of 4 straight scoreless starts, but carrying a 2.61 ERA, has allowed runs in each of his last 3 starts, so maybe the Royals can get after him. The pitching matchup tomorrow: Shane Baz for Tampa Bay. Royals got after him in Tampa back at the end of April. Michael Lorenzen for KC for the 1:10 first pitch tomorrow. One final break. We'll come back, wrap things up with a final word on 580 Sports Talk. Let's put a bow on this one before we hand it off to the Royals Baseball Network. Brendan Dworzynski, give us a final word.
The thing that frustrates me the most about the Royals isn't even the fact that the offense is putrid, which it is, and that is frustrating. But we knew that was not that it would be this bad, but we knew that was going to be a weakness for this team going into this year. It's the sloppiness. It's the lack of attention to detail. It's the marginal things like being a bad base running team, mental mistakes, gross errors way too often. This team is not good enough to be able to just ignore and shrug off those things. And if they want to turn this thing around here in the near future, they've got to start doing the smart little things sooner rather than later.
My final word, Shehan Jeyarajah from CBS Sports joined us today, and it was great timing on our part because he had a great feature today at CBSSports.com about Texas Tech and their football program, really their athletic department at large, and the length that they are willing to go to try and be a powerhouse in this new era of the Big 12 Conference. I respect an athletic department with want to. And Texas Tech has a lot of want to and a whole lot of resources. I don't know that it's going to work for them this year because I have questions about Baron Morton. I have questions about Joey McGuire's and X's and O's coach and some of their coaching staff. But they're going to be really good, and they paid a lot of money to be better than really good. So they are a fascinating team for the Big 12. You should go read Shehan's story at CBSSports.com. Royals Baseball's next. We're back tomorrow following Royals Baseball until 6. For Brendan, I'm Dan. This is 580 Sports Talk. Good night.